Push on, my friends. The Sports Bash is live. 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. The votes are in. The Tush Push stays. I like our first viewer on the YouTube channel messaging before the show starts. Hashtag Tush Push forever. Karina, thank you. I don't know if it's forever. It's for now. The Tush Push stays. The votes are in. They could not get the 8 votes. Morty Seinfeld, you don't have the votes. They didn't have the votes. Tush Push stays. You're going to see a plethora of Tush Pushes this season. It is the Eagles. I got a show for the people watching on YouTube and on the X platform. The Eagles put out a video, 26 minutes straight of Tush Push plays. The immediacy of, let me pull this up for the people watching, and if you're listening on the radio, the Eagles put out a tweet, and an hour ago, they have a throwback to their most recent Tush Push, and it is her getting pushed in the end zone. They have another subtweet with highlights of 26 minutes worth of Tush Pushes. They have a picture of a tombstone that has a bunch of people around the tombstone. It says Tush Push band vote buried. There's another one that says the Tush Push marked safe from the Tush Push ban today. You know, the Facebook one with the flags on it. I mean, the Eagles social media team is having a field day with this. It is hysterical. They have added just a bunch since the last time I looked. I was looking about an hour ago. This is the one. I'm going to put this one up on the screen for the people watching on X platform, Twitter, whatever you call it, and on YouTube. This is the one that got me right there. Push on. And it is a picture of Hurts getting ready to take the snap from an end zone view playing against the Green Bay Packers. Now, the Packers, as we know, are the team that basically, went gun-ho on this and tried to get this play removed. And the Eagles essentially were like, all right, come on, are you kidding me? And now I think this is going to, the Eagles don't need extra motivation, right? They don't need extra motivation, hopefully. This is a team that's a championship team. But how do you come back the next year to kind of get yourself in the mindset of that next run? You have certain teams that are on your schedule come after you. And now you say, when we play you, you're the team that tried to get the Tush Push banned. Oh, all right, we got a little something extra for you this week. I got a little something extra for you today. Sal Paolantonio at 5 o'clock tonight is going to talk about the kind of genesis of the Tush Push. This play has been around for some time. Many people have argued, when the Eagles did not do very well in 2023, they did run the Tush Push, and nobody brought it up at the owners' meetings. No one seemed to have a problem with it. Now, I have been vocal. I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm in celebration mode. I was not asking for the play to be banished. This is akin to my idiot friends who think that I hate Nick Castellanos. I don't dislike Nick Castellanos. I'm disappointed in him. I was hoping for more, but I yearn for him to be successful. And when he is, I'm happy. I didn't yearn for the play to get banned. I just was being objective and saying, I don't think the play is fair, but I didn't need it to be banned, or I wasn't asking for it to be banned. I'm better off today as an Eagles fan that it did not get banned, right? Like Nick Castellanos, I don't want him to suck. I'm just giving you my full opinion that I anticipated more from Nick Castellanos. The play I don't want banned, but I thought if I was voting on it, And as an objective football observer, I would say, I don't know what team runs this. Show me the play. And I would watch that play, and I would say, I can't let you run that play. I just can't think. I can't think of a reason why the NFL would think that play is a fair play. But I don't want it gone. I can clearly see that the Eagles do it better than everybody else. Now, the question I have with this moving forward is the Eagles do it better than everybody else. That has kind of been like, oh, the Eagles do it well. Nobody else can do it. Do other teams now acquiesce? Do the other teams now come together and say, you know what, if they're going to do it, it's time for us to learn how to do it? By the way, as you're watching the NFL this year, I just want to throw this out there. These are some of the teams that sided with the Eagles. Baltimore, New England, the Jets, and the Lions. The Lions were saying, you know what? This is interesting. What is the psyche of the Lions? The Lions are saying, we play the Eagles. They are an NFC, contender just like we are. Do we want to tick them off or do we want to join them? Or would we rather tick off our NFC North brethren and say, screw those guys. You're in the NFC North, you losers. We are voting against you. Could the NFC North come together, or did they fragment and split apart? And it seems it's the latter. By the way, I've got some big news on the NFC East coming up in just a couple of moments from now. This is really big news, actually. Some really, really big NFC East news I got coming up for you in just a couple moments.
Before we get to that, Mike, you know what else the teams you mentioned have in common? They all have coaches who have old-school mentalities. John Harbaugh, Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn, Mike Vrabel. So you talk about organizations that maybe are falling into the category of we have to learn how to stop it kind of attitude instead of the, oh, we don't like it, let's ban it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Dan Campbell definitely, what did he say? We're going to bite your kneecaps, that kind of stuff. He decided that, hey, if you can't beat him, join him on this one. And instead of saying we want to get rid of it, he decided I'm going to team up with you and we're going to be on your side. We're not giving you any extra motivation when you play us. All right, NFC news, NFC East news,
this
I
is
should
huge.
say. Now, I have been out the last couple of years. It's been a while, and I don't know because I don't have this platform. But according to reports, the Eagles will be featured as part of the Hard Knocks in season, which will follow the NFC East. So the NFC East will be the Hard Knocks in season. Last year they did it with the the AFC North,
right?
Which, by the way, the Eagles had a little cameo in there because they played the Browns and the Steelers, I think, in consecutive weeks there, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't consecutive weeks, but it was consecutive weeks that the Eagles were a part of the episode.
Right. They covered those four teams, and weeks that were being covered on the show, the Eagles were the opponent. Now, they weren't really on the show, but it just showed the other teams getting ready for the Eagles. And this time around, the Eagles will be featured on Hard Knocks in season. It will follow the NFC East. Now, remember, I don't know how many people watch this because they were on the Amazon Prime show, which was called All or Nothing, and it was in 2019. Carson Wentz was the quarterback.
There were 4,000 passing yards.
I never really got into that one. I think I tried watching it, but just never dove into it, and I don't even think I got through an episode or two.
I think I watched 2 episodes and I stopped.
But this one, now I don't have HBO Max, which is now called HBO Max again. It was HBO Max, then it was just Max. Now it's going back to HBO Max. Now, if you were to pick one of those names, wouldn't you think that the HBO branding was way more recognizable than Max?
Oh, 100%.
Who made that decision?
I actually could tell you who made the decision. It was when Discovery merged with Warner and HBO. The guy who's the president of Discovery said, we want it to be called Max to cover all the bases.
Yeah, that's a bad decision by them. It was a bad decision. Well, now it's back to HBO, which I do not have. It seems I'm at least going to have to get that for at least a month.
Yeah.
To watch
just for the month, listen.
No, it's an in-season one, right?
This is in season. So it's going to be them following the 4 teams during the season and kind of interweaving their stories in the episodes. And, it's basically the idea they did last year, which is, there was, okay, this episode is dedicated to mostly the Steelers. And then this episode is dedicated to the Browns and Bengals game. And, there were different parts of the season that were highlighted in each episode.
According to the Post, it'll cover all 4 of the teams. I would imagine that the Eagles will be covered heavily because the Eagles are generally not probably thrilled about being a part of this.
They've never been a part.
No, they have not. The Cowboys have. The Giants obviously have with the off-season version of this, and I don't think Washington has been a part of it, but I'm imagining the Eagles are a team that the NFL is going to say, hey, let's get some access on that team. That should be a fun team. Nick Sirianni and all that, Super Bowl champions. We have them now in season. Let's get some text messages here. 609-403-0973. McGarry this hour. Todd Zolecki today at 3 o'clock. Got Stump the Sports Geek today. Do you want the category now or do you want me to hold it?
It's a good question.
If I give you the category now, I feel like you could do some studying.
Do you want me to do studying?
No. I mean,
then don't tell me.
Yeah, do you want to leave the room and I'll tell the audience? Okay, he's not in the studio. The category today for Stump the Sports Geek will be lead singers. All right? Lead singers is the category today. See how Josh does. He's a music guy, so we'll see, and then we'll get you guys involved here in how you can win. I don't have the tickets yet. Promotions Jen, who isn't Promotions Jen anymore, but it's still Promotions Jen to me, who works down the hallway, who gets me my tickets. She hasn't told me what tickets I have to give away today, but if she's listening, because she is one of the few people in the building that does listen to my show, so 2 points for her. So she may, in fact, be listening because Promotions Jen, who's not Promotions Jen anymore, is Jen down the hallway? She wasn't down there when I went down to ask for the tickets.
I didn't walk down that way. I walked the other direction.
Well, she might be listening. If she's listening, maybe. Because I did text her. She didn't text me back.
Yeah.
But she did. I saw her earlier, and I said, hey, we got Stump the Sports Geek today. She said, okay, I got tickets for you. And then she got pulled into a different direction, to which I didn't feel like waiting anymore, and then we never collaborated again.
Would you like me to leave the room and go track her down?
Well, you could go check to see and ask her what tickets, if they have them.
I've never been afraid of
she hasn't
walking.
texted me back. So she might be at lunch. Although it's like 2:15 in the afternoon.
I mean, listen, I don't judge what people eat.
No, I'm saying, but I went down there a while ago and she wasn't there. I figure she'd be back by now, but I could be wrong.
Maybe. I'll go find out. But now that the audience knows the subject, I'm curious to see when they start texting in how
I didn't ask them to start texting in. I just gave them.
But when they do, how will that influence their numbers they guess?
We'll
You know what
find
I mean?
out. I mean,
I'm
somebody
curious.
texted in. How many did Josh get correct in the last trivia? You got
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
But that was
and
NBA draft.
NBA draft was the topic.
Right. So it's one of those deals where it's like, okay, now it's a different subject. How does that influence people guess?
Well, I just told the people the topic. It is a non-sports related topic today.
Okay, so that's a 50-50.
Yeah.
Because it's called Stump the Sports Geek, but now we're going non-sports.
Yep.
So we're living a little dangerously.
We are. Hey, Mike Gill. Joe from Summers Point. Hi, Joe from Summers Point.
Hello, Joe.
I had a minor stint of living in Summers Point.
You did?
2 different stints, actually. Yeah.
Did you like
years ago. Did I? Yeah, Summers Point's a great town.
Right.
He says, I commented last week about how angry the NFL was about the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. This is just another example as reported on your network. If Roger Goodell, it seems Roger Goodell is now behind banning the Tush Push. Yeah, there's some reports that I guess the NFL kind of pushed the Packers, no pun intended.
Nice.
I don't think that it's against the Eagles. I think they don't like the visual of the play.
Goodell says it's not an aesthetically pleasing play. It doesn't look like a football play.
Yeah, like he could say, Goodell could have said, look, the Bills run this play, and I don't like the way it looks. I just don't like the play.
Correct.
and the way that it appears on television. I don't think it has anything to do with the Eagles, Joe, but Summers Point's a great town. A lot happened in there. A lot of commercial. A lot of businesses.
Yeah, and rebuilding.
He's so angry he didn't get Patrick Mahomes holding up the trophy with Kelsey and Taylor Swift in the background. I mean, maybe he's like the commissioner of the league and he should be unbiased, but he's also there to make money for the league, and maybe he feels that the Kansas City Chiefs winning the Super Bowl is maybe better business for his league.
Well, it was such big business. Remember, ESPN followed them for the whole season, and now they're coming out with a documentary documenting them losing the Super Bowl.
Ian from Northfield says, I'm a disgruntled Dallas fan, and even I need to say, what an epic waste of time trying to ban the play. If you have a problem with the play, learn how to stop it. It also had the same argument in the 90s when people had a problem with the New Jersey Devils playing the trap. Learn how to stop it. Remember that, the trap?
Wow, that's a throwback.
Great pull there, Ian from Northfield. I will say this. If you have a problem with the play, learn how to stop it. I do feel disgruntled Dallas fan, Ian. I do feel that the offense has an unfair advantage, and that's why it's tough to stop, because the offense is allowed to push and pull, and the defense is not.
Right. So, like, for example, if they would have given the defense the ability to push and pull themselves,
they're not allowed to gain leverage. Like, they can't, like what Frankie Louvu did. He can't do that. Learn how to stop it. Well, they tried to do something where they gained leverage, and you can't do that. You're not allowed, as the defensive players, you're not allowed to push and pull other players.
Right. But what I'm saying is, if they would have given the defensive players that opportunity, would it be, in your mind, more fair?
Right. If they just said, hey, the pushing and pulling was the part of it that I think is kind of,
well,
I think gives the offense just an advantage that the defense just has nothing to counter.
But see, like, that's the part that was not in the rules years ago.
First time. Well, 20 years ago, they changed this rule for whatever team. I don't know why.
They changed the rule.
And nobody talked about it for 20 years until this.
Right, until this.
You never saw it come into play.
Well, nobody cared.
Mojo and EHT. Mr. Mojo Rising. Who's the lead singer of that?
I don't know.
The Doors.
Oh, good for him.
No, who's the lead singer of The Doors?
Oh, The Doors.
Yeah. Mr. Mojo Rising. You know The Doors, right?
I know The Doors.
Who's the lead singer?
I don't remember.
Oh, jeez. That's not good. Eagles should do the tush push the first play of the season. That's Mojo from EHT. I wouldn't be shocked if they did. It's on national television. It's the first game of the year. And if you look at their Twitter X platform right now, whoever's running that thing is having a field day.
I was asking you before the show, what's the over-under on tush pushes on Monday Night Football when they play the Packers?
That's going to be week 10. So by that time, I think it will be a story. I do. I do think it will be a story that week.
100%.
The Eagles social media team, though, by the way, is winning an award. Whatever the award is, they're winning it today. John Gannon, Shane Steichen voted to ban the play. Kellen Moore voted to keep it.
Interesting.
Thoughts?
So it sounds like whatever politicking they were doing with Gannon and Steichen, they weren't buying it.
Obviously not. They voted against it. I mean, John Gannon's a defensive coach, and
I mean, Steichen's
an offensive coach. By the way, the Eagles just put out the tweet, by the way. It says, knock, knock. And then it says, Hard Knocks in-season returns with the NFC East coming this December.
Correct.
So it's not going to be until December. That we're going to have to wait until December to check this out.
But that's okay, because guess what? In December, you're already in the house anyway, right? Because it's cold outside, so you'll have some time to watch it.
All right, 609-403-0973. What else we got going on here?
Phillies won last night.
Phillies did win last night. I did watch most of the game. I turned it off around the 8th inning, 7th inning last night. I just had Actually, I turned it off. You know what I'm watching? I forget what it's called. It's the Osama bin Laden manhunt thing, an American manhunt on Netflix. Man, this is unbelievable.
What makes it so fascinating?
just the whole story. I mean, what they did to try to find this guy, how long it took them to try to find this. Now, I'm not done the whole thing yet. I'm only we watched the first episode.
Okay.
And it takes you through 9/11 and kind of the day.
What platform is this on?
Netflix.
Okay.
Have to watch it.
Now,
so the first half hour is
Yeah.
literally 9/11, what happened, recounting the day, and then the opening credits kind of hit. So it's almost like you're watching like a preview for a half an hour, and then finally when, and they're taking you through former CIA operatives, counterintelligence people, recounting their day, recounting everything that they did to try to find this guy. Now, I'm only an episode and a half in. I don't know how many episodes. It's either 3 or 4 or 5. It's like a miniseries. So the Phillies are up 7-0 or 7-1. And at that point, I said, all right, I've seen enough. I mean, the Rockies are not coming back in this game. Now, they did end up making it closer. But
it's because the Phillies bullpen is weak.
Because I came back, it was 7-4. Who was the Max Lazar was on the mound when I turned it back on in the ninth. Now, he was on in the ninth. It was 7-4 and nobody out, and there was a runner on, and it was in fact, I think when I turned the channel, when I went from Netflix back to YouTube TV, McCarthy had said, this is turning into a save situation all of a sudden, right. Because it was a 3-run game, and there was the tying run was was in the on-deck circle.
I mean, I'm telling you, Mike, when I saw Max Lazar in the game, I was nervous.
Yeah, so it was 7-1 when I turned it off, and I went to the it's called American Manhunt, I believe.
American Manhunt, okay.
Yeah. So it's basically a recount of the 9/11 and then them basically going on a manhunt to try to find bin Laden. Yeah. So the one episode I just finished, it's them basically bombing the caves where they thought that they found him,
and
but later on he put a video out and they realized that they did not get him.
Yep.
And that was a complete cluster in terms of internally of what happened and why they there was a lot of people thinking that the administration really bleeped up.
Yeah, well, and then people started blaming each other. It was you gave us bad information. It's no, you didn't
Well,
listen.
I guess the people who were in charge of the manhunt had one idea, and the administration basically wasn't on board with it, so they wouldn't allow them to. But you definitely watch it. It is riveting stuff if you're into that kind of stuff. I mean, some people might not want to recount that day. I mean, that would be totally understandable. But that being said, so I turned over. It was 7-1. And then,
Max Lazar came in the 8th inning, for those who don't remember, and he ended up giving up 2 runs, and that's why it turned into that
2 in the ninth.
He gave up the save situation because he's the one who gave up the 2 runs that put it into the save situation.
Yeah, but he came in the 8th and pitched a clean 8th, and he gave up the runs in the 9th inning.
I think the theory is that they were all right, well, you didn't give any runs in that inning, so we'll put you back out there.
Luzardo, now I did watch Luzardo's whole 6 innings. He had 10 strikeouts, 3 walks. He kind of battled his way through that, 105 pitches, which, I was a little surprised. And I think because their bullpen's so thin right now, they kind of stretched Luzardo an extra inning that they probably didn't want to, because they sounded pretty surprised on the broadcast that they let him go back out for the 6th.
Well, Luzardo even said that after the game. He said that he went to Rob Thompson and said, look, I know the bullpen needs a little bit of a break, so I'm going to try to get you as deep as possible in this game.
And luckily for him, he ended up with 105 pitches because he started that inning in the 90s, which that's why – they haven't really pushed him past it. Now, you're into May now, so I guess these pitchers are starting to get to that 90, 95, 100 area.
But he was laboring in those early innings. So it was, in the 3rd and 4th innings is when he really started accumulating some of those pitches. You look at the pitch count, you're like, is this dude going to make it to the 5th and 6th innings?
All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. What's up? We got a lot to do today. Let's get into it, all right? LJ from Millville, I see your text. Brett from Berlin, who's in Margate, I see your text. Cole from LBI, I see your text and others. 609-403-0973. Stump the Sports Geek in about an hour. Todd Zolecki at 3 o'clock. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, pressofac.com. The NFC East will be on the in-season Hard Knocks, and we'll have Sal Paolantonio tonight at 5 o'clock. More Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. All right, 2:32 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City going to join me in just a couple of minutes. You know, the Alan Parsons song, which was synonymous with the Chicago Bulls in the Michael Jordan era. We'll get the Knicks tonight against the Pacers. Feels like a little 90s day with that series back. You know, it's the last series on TNT. Next year, the NBA goes to NBC. Got Knicks Pacers tonight. The Knicks have not won an NBA championship since 1973. Nixon was in office. The three other teams have never won an NBA title. So it's either the Knicks winning for the first time since 73 or somebody's winning their first ever NBA championship. That starts tonight. You can listen to the game on 97.3 ESPN. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. We'll get some Phils. We'll get some NBA. We'll get some NFL. We'll start with his Knicks, who 73, man. What were you doing?
73, I was 8 years old. I distinctly remember that they won the game on the West Coast. I believe they beat the Lakers in 5. I think they won Game 5 in Los Angeles. And at that time, you know, the game started 10 o'clock at night. So me being the excellent, third grade student I was, or second grade student, I did not stay up and watch the game. But I woke up the next morning to hear my dad tell me that the Knicks had indeed defeated the Lakers to become world champions.
There you go. So 1973 was the last time it happened. The Pacers have never won. The T-Wolves have never won. Oklahoma City won as the Seattle Supersonics, but they have not won in this incarnation. So you're going to get a new champion or a champion that hasn't won since 1973. It should be fun, but how you feeling about this series against the Pacers? You getting any 90s vibes? Getting any old school stuff with Reggie Miller on the call and everything?
Yeah, you do. I mean, to me, this series screams, you know, you mentioned the NBA going back to NBC. This screams, you know, NBC, Marv Albert. You know, I think a lot of those games, NBC used to have those triple hitters on Sunday, right? I think they played at noon and then like 2:30 and then at 5 o'clock. This was Knicks Pacers was always like a noon game on a Sunday, basically. And some of the great, you know, playoff games in NBA history with what Reggie Miller did in those games, just historic. So to me, when I look at this series, Mike, again, I see it going 7 games, and it's just come down to, you know, who makes a shot in Game 7. Is it going to be Jalen Brunson? Is it going to be Halliburton? We'll see what happens. But I think this series goes 7 games and is full of plenty of twists and turns. Last year's series went 7 games. Pacers beat the Knicks, but the Knicks were awfully banged up by the end of that series. So we'll see what happens this year.
All right, there's 4 guys: Brunson, SGA, Edwards, Halliburton. Which guy do you want in Game 7?
Boy, you know, that's, I have to go. Let me paraphrase it like this. I think SGA and Edwards are more talented than Brunson and Halliburton, right? If you were going to say 82 games, I got to take one of those 2 guys. But clutch-wise, I've got to take Jalen Brunson in the clutch. I think he was the NBA Clutch Player of the Year list this year. His heart rate stays steady. Nothing seems to bother him. He's been in big spots his whole life, both in college and in the pros. And he seems to have a knack for performing in the fourth quarter under pressure. So I will take Brunson specifically for those situations. But obviously, Edwards and SGA, I think, are overall more talented players than Brunson and Halliburton. But Brunson with the ball in his hands with 2 minutes to go in the game, I feel very, very comfortable with that scenario.
All right, Mike, as we're watching these NBA playoffs, Knicks, Pacers, T-Wolves, Minnesota, we just talked about the 4 players. Are we watching right before our very eyes this year the changing of the NBA guard? The Currys are gone, LeBron's gone, Durant's gone, Kawhi's gone. Is the league changing right before our very eyes?
Yeah, I think it is, Mike. And I think the winner of this West Coast series is going to be the guy in the NBA going forward. It's either going to be Edwards or SGA. They're going to be the guy in the NBA next year, the winner of this year, winner of that West Coast series. So both of them have kind of been knocking on the doorstep for the past couple of years, but I agree with you. You know, LeBron's 40 years old. I think KD's 36, 37. Curry's in his late 30s or mid to late 30s. A lot of the guys that we've kind of gotten used to watching are kind of on the downside of their careers. And then there's the injury factor, right? Maybe you got to throw Jason Tatum in that discussion for being the guy in the NBA. But Jason Tatum's probably going to miss all of next season with that Achilles injury. So injuries kind of take him out of the mix. So I agree with you. I think the guy in the NBA, sort of the poster guy for the NBA next year, will be the winner of this West Coast series, and that's either SGA or Anthony Edwards at this point.
Well, and I asked that question first because a lot of the rumors that are coming out, Mike, about the third pick, and one is, hey, maybe they used the third pick and Paul George, entice somebody by giving them the third pick, and one of the names is Durant, and I'm thinking, I know it sounds out of your mind to say I don't want Kevin Durant, but are we past the point that a guy like Kevin Durant can lead you to a title?
Well, I don't think Kevin Durant can do it by himself, but Kevin Durant in combination with, Maxey and Embiid, I think he absolutely could, kind of lead you to that NBA title. To me, Mike, that third pick, to me, the Sixers have to trade that pick. To me, the NBA draft is almost like the baseball draft now. There's very few players in a draft that can come into the league and have an impact right away and help you win. I mean, look at Rutgers last year. I point at Rutgers. Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey are probably going to be two of the top 5 picks. Yet they were on the same college basketball team last year, and they were one of the worst teams in the Big Ten. I mentioned it before. They lost to Princeton. They lost to Kennesaw State. They lost to USC. They were terrible as a basketball team. So what makes us think that adding one of those guys to an NBA team is going to help you win? And I think the Sixers are in a win-now mode with Embiid. I know some people say, let me grab the number 3 pick. Let me get a player who can help us build for down the road. Well, if you're in the build down the road mode, to me, then you've got to trade Embiid and Paul George this offseason and then take the number 3 pick and start over. But to me, if you're going to try to win next year with Embiid and Paul George, and I think that's the choice that the Sixers have to make, then you've got to trade that pick to get some veteran guys in here to help you make a run at the title. And here's why you do it, Mike. Look at the East. The East is wide open. Knicks Pacers are in the final this year. Would you, if I told you right now that the Knicks lost in the first round of next year's NBA playoffs, or the Pacers got beat in the first round of next year's NBA playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised. Dame Lillard's out for the year. Giannis is talking about leaving Milwaukee. Tatum's hurt. What kind of impact is that going to be on the Celtics? Can the Celtics even afford to keep their team together? Cleveland doesn't look as strong as they once were. The East really looks wide open. So if I'm the Sixers, I'm focusing on getting Embiid and Paul George healthy. I'm trading that pick. I'm bringing in a veteran guy to try to help me to win next year, because to me, the East is wide open next year.
Yep, I agree. As you take a look at the Tatum thing at the top of the list there, that game's tonight right here on 97.3 ESPN. I want to get your thoughts on Luzardo. He kind of, struggled through that, but when you look at Luzardo, 10 strikeouts last night, yes, he was kind of like grinding his way through, but in the end, 1 run, 10 Ks, 3 walks, he threw 105. His ERA is down to 195. Is this akin to what we saw from like Ranger Suarez, where he just got a great start? Or when you watch this guy, are you looking at a guy that's got the staying power to be that 1A, 1B with Wheeler?
Yeah, yes and no. I don't think he's going to pitch at the level he has pitched at all season long. That would be very difficult to do, a 1.95 ERA. I mean, he's a Cy Young candidate if he holds up that way all season. But I don't think we're going to see the drop-off from him that we saw in Ranger Suarez in the second season. The guy is a very talented pitcher. Remember, we talked about in the offseason that we might, in September, look back and say, hey, Dave Dombrowski had a better offseason than we thought. Luzardo is certainly making the case for that. He was an outstanding pitcher with the Marlins. It kind of bothered by injuries and kind of pitching in that black hole that is down there in Miami. He kind of got lost a little bit, but I think he is an outstanding pitcher, a big addition for the Philadelphia Phillies. I don't think he's going to continue to throw like this, lights out for the entire season, but he's not going to fade the way Ranger Suarez did in the second half of last season. And I think he's a guy right now that is probably, Wheeler is the clear number one, and then whether you want to go him or Sanchez as 2A or 2B, those are the two guys right there. So I think Luzardo has been a huge addition, and I think the way he has pitched is a big reason for the Phillies' success.
Okay, couple NFL things today. The Tush Push lives. That is not going to be banned, which I think was kind of an upset. I think most people thought it felt like it was on its way out. Is the Tush Push a huge advantage for Philadelphia or overblown?
Well, it's a huge advantage for Philadelphia, I believe, because, you get 4 downs to make 10 yards, and if it's 4th and 2, they're almost automatic to pick up a first down. So I think it's a huge advantage. Now, the way I look at it, from the outside looking in, I mean, if it was that easy to do, every team in the NFL would do it. So obviously the Eagles have hit upon something or have a special knack for this play. And as ugly as I think the play is, and, I just don't see the reason why to ban it at this point. I know some people say it's not a football play, it's not this, it's not that. But again, I come back to, if it was easy, if it was automatic for every team would do it, and every team doesn't do it. So the Eagles have the success for it right now. I think it's a huge advantage for them. I wasn't in favor of being banned, but I do think other NFL teams better come up with a way to stop it, because like I said, you get 4 plays to make 10 yards, and if it's 4th and less than 2, the Eagles are almost automatic with that tush push to make a first down. But I'm not in favor of banning it. I think it's on the other teams to come up with a way to stop it. And again, if it was that easy to do, every other team in the NFL would do it, and they don't.
Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. The NFC East will be featured on the in-season Hard Knocks on a scale of 1 to 10. How interested?
10. I thought last year when they did the AFC North, I thought it was fascinating. And I also like, jumping around to the other teams. I think sometimes when they do one team, it gets too repetitive. There's not enough storylines. Now with the 4 teams, when I watched it last year with the AFC North, I liked it because you got different viewpoints. I think you got some insight into Mike Tomlin, what makes him so successful as a Pittsburgh Steelers coach. So I think it's outstanding. It's going to be great for us because we're into all 4 of those teams. We're obviously, we're going to be living and dying on Sunday and then go back on Tuesday or Wednesday whenever the show comes out and take a look. And I'm surprised who convinced the Giants to sign up again. Give the Giants some kudos because, boy, at the last one went, I'd love to be on the phone call from the NFL to John Mara and say, hey, you're not going to have to carry the show by yourself, but we're still going to want you on it. I mean, got to give John Mara and the Giants some credit for signing up again for it.
Yeah, I don't know that they signed up or were they forced into it, but yeah, the Giants who were just on the off-season one, this one at least they shouldn't, it will be in season, and by that time they'll be so far out of it probably they won't be given reveal. Although they might have some off-season secrets by the December when they run this thing that they might start talking about. We'll see. There could be some rocky times for the head coach in there. I'm a 10 on that one as well. Mike McGarry, you tweeted Kyle Schwarber, the Mets, Yankees, Reds, all over him this offseason. What kind of conundrum do the Phillies have with Schwarber in this contract?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy, Mike, when you think about it, it's hard to believe that, 8 or 9 years ago, he was released by the Chicago Cubs. I mean, what were they thinking? Here is a guy who seems to get better with age. He's taking better care of himself, better health. That bat speed is amazing. And to me, what he gives to the Phillies, both on the field and off the field, can't be replaced. And it seems with each home run, his price goes up. Originally I was thinking 3 years, $30 million with an option for a 4th year. Then I went to 4 years, $30 million with an option for a 5th year. Now I'm at 5 years, $30 million. I think he's going to get that because power is the last thing to go. And, yeah, he'd be 37, 38 at the end of that contract, but he's a DH and he shows no signs of slowing down. And there's going to be a big market for him, Mike. Think about Yankee Stadium. That right field wall is a pitching wedge away from home plate. How many home runs would Kyle Schwarber hit in Yankee Stadium? Look at the Mets. The Mets signed Soto away from the Yankees last year. This year they could have let Alonso walk, skip Vientos to first base, put Batty at third base, and sign Schwarber away from a division rival, away from the Phillies to be your DH. And as far as Cincinnati, Kyle is from that part of the country. The Reds have a young team. They got Tito Francona as manager. They've got a lot of young, talented players. What better clubhouse influence, what better winner to bring into your clubhouse to teach those young kids, how to make the next step, how to get to the postseason, how to be a winning baseball team. I think Schwarber fits perfectly with all three of those teams, and I can see all three of those teams coming in and just offering him a lot of money and a lot of years. So to me, every time Kyle Schwarber steps to the home plate and hits the ball to Margate from Colorado, he's earning himself millions of dollars. And like I said, I started at 3 years, $30 million. I'm at 5 years, $30 million right now, and I think he's a guy. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with him in the offseason because he's a guy that's attracted to a lot of teams, and he's a guy I don't think the Phillies can afford to lose on and off the field.
All right, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. Knicks Pacers tonight, ninth time they have met. Pacers beat the Knicks last year in the semis. They are 5-3 all time against the Knicks in the playoffs. That game tonight on 97.3 ESPN. Thanks, Mike.
All right, Knicks in 7. That's the prediction. Knicks in 7. I think they'll have a tough time against the winner of the West, but I think they'll get there for the first time since 1999. So Knicks in 7, here we go.
Woohoo! And the Mets, by the way, have lost 3 in a row. The Phillies now lead that series, the division by a game and a half. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. Todd Zolecki from MLB.com covers the Phillies. We'll talk a lot of Phils, pitching, what they're looking for, a name they had some interest in. That's all coming up in 11 minutes. All right, 2:54. So today is a Stump the Sports Geek day. Today you are playing for Luke Bryan tickets. All right? Luke Bryan tickets June the 6th, which is coming up here at Freedom Mortgage, which is it's at the Camden?
Camden.
Okay. Today's category is lead singers.
I feel like there was some coordination between the tickets and the topic this time.
Well, I did the questions and answers before I knew the tickets.
Oh.
Yes.
So it's just you and Jen were on the right track together.
Well, there you go. So 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Josh, how confident are you?
Less confident in the NBA draft.
How many lead singers do you think Josh will get? 10 questions. Text in your name, where you're from, and how many lead singers Josh will correctly answer. The person who texts in the first correct answer will be our winner. And if nobody gets it, the person who was closest first will be our winner. Pair of Luke Bryan tickets. The category is lead singers. We will start Stump the Sports Geek today at 3:30 on the Sports Bash. Stick around. Todd Zolecki from MLB.com covers the Phillies. Joins me next. All right, hour 2 of the Sports Bash Live. Phil's out in Colorado, but a lot of Philly stuff happened over the weekend, catching everybody up. No better guy to do it with. Todd Zolecki, MLB.com, covers the Phillies, host of the Phillies Show podcast. It's Todd Zolecki, Jim Salisbury, Ruben Amaro. Todd Zolecki joins me right now on a wet and dreary day down the shores. We're getting ready for Memorial Day weekend. And he is on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. What's up, Todd? Good to see you, buddy.
Mike, what's going on, dude? How are you?
I'm doing all right. A little miserable down here today, but baseball brightens everybody's day, does it not? Especially a good baseball team. And all of a sudden, the Phillies have clicked the switch, flipped it on, and they're playing the best baseball maybe of the season for them, and they have the most wins in the National League. Who would have saw this coming, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. About 2 weeks into the season, everybody said it was over. And
it's funny how that happens. You play one bad series. Since that Mets series, they have really taken off, and the Mets have not played well.
Exactly right. It's a 162-game season for a reason. And, you just sometimes I think in Philly, everybody kind of has a football mentality about the baseball season, and you forget that there are ebbs and flows. There are ups and downs. The Phillies are probably going to have a few more really bad stretches over the course of the season, but they have been playing, like you said, Mike, really, really, really well since they got swept in New York in late April.
Well, Todd, you mentioned a bad stretch could be coming, and it could happen soon or it could happen whenever, but that bad stretch could be tied to a bullpen, which is starting to come around, and then the blow they got on Sunday. A couple days later now, I think there was some reporting that they kicked the tires on David Robertson even before Alvarado. Where do you see this bullpen now? Is it an urgent thing, or are they still going to kind of wait and see and say, let's not get crazy about this?
Yeah, I think they're going to wait and see. I mean, right now, if you would make a trade for a high leverage reliever, first of all, there aren't that many really good high leverage relievers available because there's probably only 6, 7, 8 teams that have no chance to make the postseason. And
yeah,
like the Rockies, the Pirates, so there's the price for a good high leverage reliever right now on May 21st would be insanely high. And so I think what the Phillies are going to try to do is they're going to try to move forward with what they have in the short term and see how everybody does. What you don't want to do is panic, trade, Justin Crawford and Eduardo Taiit, who are their top 100 prospects, for a high leverage reliever. And then all of a sudden, boom, an infielder goes down or an outfielder goes down or a catcher goes down and you're going, oh my gosh, we should have waited a little bit. So I think they're going to move forward with what they have. I think they are looking for relief help. I think that was always the plan. Every contending team always seems to find bullpen help before the trade deadline. I would expect them to do the same thing, but not at this moment.
I kind of agree. I don't think they have to panic and do anything, but is what they have good enough? When you look at this bullpen right now, it might be good enough to get them through a month, but how long can they push forward with what they currently have?
Yeah, for sure. And that's why the Phillies, Mark Feinsand from MLB.com, he reported that story on Monday night. You mentioned earlier that the Phillies had reached out to David Robertson. That was before the Alvarado suspension. So even in the Phillies' minds, they're going, okay, we probably need to upgrade here. Because if you think about it, even with Alvarado, before the suspension, you had Alvarado, you had Jordan Romano, who's been really good lately, but he really struggled early. You have a Ryan Kirkring, who's been a little bit better recently, but he's been inconsistent. And you have Matt Strum, who was an all-star last year. He started out the season a little slowly after having an abbreviated spring training. Then after that, you've got Jose Ruiz. You have Carlos Hernandez, who has trouble throwing strikes from appearance to appearance. You have Tanner Banks, who is the second lefty in the pen, but not really a high leverage guy right now. And you have Taijuan Walker. So is it good enough for right now? I think it's good enough for right now, but yeah, I think they know that they're going to need to do something at some point. They have some internal options that they might explore. Some guys in AAA, they converted a prospect, one of their top pitching prospects, Seth Johnson. They moved him to the bullpen recently. Then you look way down the road and maybe in the postseason, you can move somebody like Ranger Suarez into the bullpen, or even Christopher Sanchez into the bullpen, or maybe McGarry can move to the bullpen at some point later this season. There's different things that they can explore right now. But I definitely think at some point they're going to have to go outside.
All right, Todd Zolecki, MLB.com, host of the Phillies Show podcast. You just said, McGarry. He obviously pitched Sunday. You got a chance to see him. I think he exceeded everyone's expectations. Maybe not theirs. I mean, this guy was a first-round pick. I mean, I'm sure they wanted to see him pitch this well. But how did that start do anything for him? Did it change his outlook, future, season, trade value?
Well, yeah, I think you could look at it two ways. You could look at it like, man, if it's July 25th and the Phillies are desperate for a reliever, or again, like I said, maybe there's an injury that happens to a really key player. Now you have a guy in McGarry who's pitching really well in AAA. He came up and he pitched amazingly well on Sunday against the Pirates. Now maybe he could help you get somebody of significance before the trade deadline. Or maybe you could look at it like, man, maybe this guy could help us this season. And I mentioned him moving to the bullpen only because you never know what could happen. We've seen starting pitchers, young pitchers go into the bullpen for a short stretch. So maybe they go, you know what? We don't want to trade this guy because, man, now we're really thinking he could be really good for us. But maybe he could help us in the bullpen, the final month or two of the season, if he doesn't fit into the rotation plans. So at least he's opened up a couple doors for the Phillies. He could help you get some outside help, or maybe he could help you internally. I mean, the Phillies have been pretty lucky in terms of their starting pitching health. Aaron Nola's on the injured list right now with an ankle injury. But hey, if another guy goes down or two more guys go down, and that could definitely happen. You get a line drive off the shin, or somebody has a sore shoulder. You could use a guy like McGarry in the rotation.
You also have Andrew Painter, so there's like a line here of waiting. Hey, me next, then you. But you also have five guys already there, plus Walker, who will pitch tonight, by the way. He's in the Nola spot. And doing some research yesterday, I came across a story that you wrote at MLB.com back in April where Dave Dombrowski basically said Painter is not a bullpen option. For the people who think that, hey, why not just throw him in the bullpen? He would not fit that. But do you think that he definitively fits into the rotation, meaning that someone is going?
Well, this is interesting. So, yeah, I would be absolutely floored if at some point during the regular season, Andrew Painter pitches in the bullpen because of what Dave Dombrowski said. He's a young guy. Dave Dombrowski thinks he could be the next Justin Verlander. Dave had Justin Verlander in Detroit when he was coming up. Andrew Painter's coming off Tommy John surgery. It's just something you don't want to mess with a guy like that. Now, maybe in the postseason, things are different. Is he definitely going to come up into the rotation? I believe so. I think there are stretches at some point this season where they could use a 6-man rotation. You have Aaron Nola, who's pitched more innings than anybody in baseball over the last 5, 6, 7 years. You have Zach Wheeler, who's like third on that list over the last 5, 6, 7 years. You have Jesus Luzardo, who has been outstanding, but he's coming off an injury filled 2024. So you kind of want to watch his innings. You have Ranger Suarez, who struggled in the second half of last season. The Phillies kind of felt that he wore down, so they want to watch his innings. And so you have some guys in the rotation that could maybe benefit from a little bit extra rest late in the season. And so that's where I think a 6-man rotation could come into play. And that's where I think Andrew Painter could potentially fit in. He could come in, give these guys an extra day here and there, and maybe
some of which don't like that, though, right?
Right. Zach Wheeler is definitely a guy that likes to pitch on regular rest, but I think he also they could maybe massage a little bit where he pitches on more regular rest than others. But I also think that Zach Wheeler understands that, hey, listen, we're trying to win a World Series. So if I have to suck it up and maybe pitch on an extra day of rest every once in a while to help out the other guys stay a little bit fresh in the postseason, he might be willing to do that. I would suspect he would be willing to do that.
All right, I know it's early, but everybody's thinking about the big picture here, and we're talking pitching. Todd Zolecki, MLB.com, covers the Phillies. He's the host of the Phillies Show podcast, which is really insightful with Todd Zolecki, Jim Salisbury, Ruben Amaro Jr. You got Wheeler, it appears. Do you think Luzardo is more of like Ranger Suarez, where he has a great first half? Are they worried about him fading out, or is he a legitimate top of the rotation year-long ace for you? Let's start with that.
I think he's a legitimate long-term ace for this team. He has shown a few years ago in Miami, I think he made over 30 starts. He was like 180 innings. He started against the Phillies in game 1 of the 2023 NL Wildcard Series. And so I think they look at him as somebody who can take the ball every 5-6 days, whereas Ranger has, and listen, Luzardo had a back injury last year, right? So I'm not saying he's necessarily injury free, but Ranger seems to get dinged up every year with something. That's why he's just got back to the rotation recently, because he had another back injury. He's had arm issues over the past. I think they believe that Luzardo can be a little bit more of a workhorse type for him. But again, like I mentioned earlier, because he missed so much time last season, I think they would like to protect him as much as they possibly can. That doesn't mean pulling him out of the rotation or anything like that. But I think, again, that means giving him a few more days here and there. But he has been absolutely outstanding. And it's funny, you mentioned like Ruben Amaro and Salisbury. Like we were talking all offseason about and spring training about, this guy is really good. And the players in that clubhouse, Mike, when I was in spring training in Clearwater, a lot of people mentioned, you guys are running it back and, you guys didn't do anything this offseason. They're like, do you know how good Jesus Luzardo is?
Right.
Got all the hitters on that team, all the pitchers in that team. They're like, do you guys realize how good this guy is when he's healthy? And then he adds a sweeper, and that's been a godsend for him. And you talk about the best pitchers in baseball this year. Zach Wheeler's one of the top 5, I would say, and Jesus Luzardo has been one of the top 5.
Yeah, and I don't know that the Phillies even thought they were getting this level of pitcher. Like, hey, it seemed like, hey, he's a good middle of the rotation. He has been every bit an ace with Zach Wheeler, those two guys. So I think if we're having this conversation on May 21st, Wheeler and Luzardo, they're your top 2 guys. Sanchez appears to be settling in at number 3. Do you see a scenario where Aaron Nola does not get a postseason start?
Boy, sure. I think it depends on how everybody's doing, of course. I mean, that's obvious. But yeah, I think, well, in a 7-game series, you're probably going to need 4 starters, right? So if Aaron Nola is throwing the ball competently, and if he comes back and his ERA is in the 5s and the 6s and he continues to struggle throughout the season, yeah, then I think probably not. I think, the Phillies have shown in the past they're not afraid to pull a guy out of the rotation. Hey, Taijuan Walker was really good for them in 2023. I think he won like 16 games. He had an ERA in the mid-4s. He didn't sniff an inning in the postseason in 2023. So I think that's certainly possible, but they seem to think that once he gets past this ankle injury, that affected him in his last 2 starts. He's started to show signs of a turnaround before that, but we'll see. Long way to go. They would love to have Aaron Nola turn around. Obviously, he's got 5 years left on that deal. Yeah. But I think right now, yeah, if you had to put money on it, you'd say Wheeler, Luzardo, Sanchez are your top 3 starters. And who knows? Maybe Andrew Painter comes on and
he would be the follow-up guy. I mean, he comes up here and just for instance, he has an impact similar to what Skeens did for Pittsburgh last year, and he throws, he's 9-1 with an ERA in the low 2s. How do you say you're not getting a start in the playoffs if that's what he does? And then would Nola be a candidate to even pitch out of the bullpen? You mentioned Walker. He didn't get a sniff. He didn't even he didn't get an inning in those playoffs. Right. Would they just not even roster Nola? Do they look at him as a bullpen candidate? I think that's another interesting thing coming down the pipeline here.
Yeah, this will all be fascinating to see how this unfolds over the next few months. How does Painter fit? And I mean, listen, Dave Dombrowski has said this as well. He's like, he has to earn his promotion. I mean, so far he's pitched pretty well, but he has to earn his promotion, and there also has to be a need. I mean, obviously, you got an injury right now to Nola. Like I mentioned earlier, they want to kind of protect some of these guys, maybe spread out the starts with some of their starting pitchers. So maybe they do that. Yeah, I don't know. It's a long way to go. I personally think that Aaron Nola can get it figured out. He's never been a high velo guy. He's a really good pitcher. He had 2 really good starts against the Diamondbacks and Cubs. They were 2 of the top 5 offenses in baseball at the time that he faced them, and he gave up 1 earned run in 13 innings. Now, the first 5 were not good. The last one was the worst start of his career, so I understand all that. I'm just saying I do think there's some time for him to figure it out, and I would like to see what he can do. If the ankle really did bother him, if he really did start to maybe change his mechanics, he mentioned his back started bothering him in that last start. I'd like to see what he can do healthy and see if he can get back on track. Because if he can get back on track, that is huge.
And just presents another logjam and another potential decision that the Phillies have to make. Let's quickly look at a couple of the other decisions that they might be pondering. Todd Zolecki, MLB.com. Are they happy? Happy, maybe not. Comfortable with center field right now? Are they okay, or is that something they're monitoring?
I think they're monitoring it. I think if Justin Crawford continues to play well, or continues to picks things up, shows that he can stick in AAA and hit AAA pitching, and if there are some struggles at the big league level, if Marsh slides back downward or whatever, there's an injury, I think you can see Justin Crawford come up at some point. I really do believe that. Dave Dombrowski in spring training allowed for that possibility. He said at the time, we don't have any expectations that he's going to help us this year, but they started him in AAA. And to me, that says, they want to test him. They brought him to AAA, started him in AAA because they wanted to test him and see if he could be promoted at some point if there's a need. So I think that's definitely a possibility. And depending on how things shake out with the bullpen, depending on the health of the roster, I could see them trying to make an upgrade in the outfield as well. I think that's definitely a possibility. This is a team that is trying to win the World Series right now. They would love to re-sign Kyle Schwarber. JT Realmuto is a free agent. I know offensively he hasn't, been tearing it up, but he's tremendous behind the plate still. The pitching staff loves throwing him. So they know that there's a window here, and they want to strike now. So I think if there's an opportunity to upgrade a particular position, I think they're going to try to do that to try to win a World Series this year.
That JT is going to be a tough one, man. I mean, they don't have a lot of catching in the system. He's getting older. That's going to be an interesting, conversation when the season's over about that deal, don't you think?
Absolutely. And here's why I think it's interesting is because he is so good behind the plate. And I'm not just talking about his arm and his pop time and whatnot. He is so good with these pitchers, and he prepares so well, and he calls such a good game. I had somebody tell me recently that the Phillies are so lucky to have JT Realmuto as a catcher just because of his impact on the pitching staff. So I know when he first came to Philly, he was, he put up these big numbers offensively as a catcher, and he hasn't necessarily done that this year, but don't sell short the impact that he has on this pitching staff. And like you said, they don't have a lot of depth coming. Eduardo Taid is their top catching prospect, but he's really young and he needs a lot more time to develop in the minor leagues. So very interesting, no doubt.
By the way, Crawford is hitting .405 against lefties right now. For the people, he is left-handed. He is hitting .405 against lefties, .436 on base percentage against lefties. So Crawford, batting lefty, is hitting lefties. Are they okay? Is a Kepler Wilson left field? Are they okay with that?
I think they're okay with it right now. Yeah, I think Kepler at times has been pretty good. Wilson has crushed left-handed pitching over his career. I think for right now it's good, but again, it's May 21st, so you have 2 months to go plus 10 days before the trade deadline. A lot can happen. They're going to learn a lot about Kepler. They're going to learn a lot about Weston Wilson, just like they're going to learn a lot more about Marsh and Rojas in center field over these next 2+ months. And that will kind of help inform their decisions on what they want to do. Last year they went out and they got Austin Hayes. He had a health issue, and obviously that did not work out. But so
he's doing pretty well in Cincinnati right now.
He's doing great in Cincinnati. You really wonder if that was the version of Austin Hayes that they got. If they would have got him last year, he would have been back this year, and you'd be looking at left field a whole lot differently, I think. Yeah.
Well, and it's weird because Kepler, is a left-handed hitter. He just seemed to be a weird fit from the start. By the way, for the people listening, Austin Hayes, 319, 6 homers, 364 on base, 582 slug, 496 OPS. I mean, he is having that's a little ballpark out there, but he is mashing right now. The last one I have for you, Todd, as we get ready to get out of here, which is you've been covering this team a long time. To see a leadoff hitter platoon, is that like bizarre, or is that just baseball in 2025?
I think it's probably baseball in 2025. I'm trying to think of the last time I can remember a platoon type of situation. But
that's what it is, right?
Yeah. I mean, it is. Against with a righty on the mound, Bryson Stott's going to lead off, and with a lefty on the mound, Trey Turner's going to lead off. And I'll be honest with you, I like it. I like this setup. I like the flexibility. I've talked with Trey Turner about this. He's like, as long as we know where we're going to hit and it's based off a particular matchup. So he's like, if I know against a lefty, I'm leading off, and then there's a righty tomorrow and I'm hitting second, I'm totally cool with that. Bryson Stott, I know a lot of people, including Ruben Amaro Jr. has told me, he's like, he really likes the idea of he wants Bryson Stott to get an opportunity to lead off every day, including against left-handed pitching. But there's also this balance, right? Because Bryson Stott has not hit lefties very well this season. Now, how are you going to hit lefties if you don't face them? That's a great argument. Eventually Charlie Manuel turned Chase Utley loose against lefties. He eventually turned Ryan Howard loose against lefties. But they also want to keep Edmundo Sosa going, and he's played very well in his opportunities against left-handed pitching. So you're trying to win that day's game. You're trying to win the division. You're trying to get to the playoffs. So you have this balance that Rob Thompson is trying to strike between developing a guy like Bryson Stott and trying to winning that night's game. And right now, I think it's important to win games. It's working. So as long as it's working, I personally would keep running with it.
All right, we'll see how that pans out for them, obviously. They're out in Colorado tonight and tomorrow. Then they're going to Sacramento to take on the Athletics. Todd Zolecki, the Philly Show podcast. You can check that out on all podcasting platforms. Jim Salisbury and Ruben Amaro Jr., along with Todd Zolecki, who was my guest here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Hey, good to see you, man.
Good to see you, Mike. Thanks a lot.
You got it, man. Todd Zolecki, everybody, here on the Sports Bash as we take you through the 6 o'clock. Good to catch up with Todd. He does a great job. He's been on the Phillies beat for a while. A lot of insight there. We can kind of go over a bunch of it, and anything that stood out to you, let us know. 609-403-0973. The Stott thing, as he said, if these guys know that that's the case, I guess, that's the way it is. I mean, hey, I know I'm hitting lead off against lefties, and I know I'm batting second against righties. Throw that into the mix. Seems to be okay. It seems like everybody's on board with that, he said. The other thing that I would look at that he talked about was the center field thing. They're monitoring that as they are left field. I talked about Austin Hayes. Man, he is having a year, man. 364 on base, 582 slug, 946, 946 OPS, a 319 batting average, 6 homers. Now, he did miss some time with some injury. He's played 24 games, so it's a small sample size for him. But, man, 6 homers in 24 games with a 319 batting average, a 364 on base. Having that right-handed bat, and with those numbers, he probably, you're hitting Kepler some nights 5, 6. That would have been an interesting look to see if he could have been the right-handed bat. Then you possibly could have him and Marsh play some left field together. I don't know. I just feel like bringing Hayes back at $5 million, which is what I think he got from the Reds, might have been a better move than signing Kepler for $10 million and having another left-handed bat in the lineup. All right, I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. What's up, everybody? All right, coming up, we gave you the category. The category for Stump the Sports Geek this week is lead singers. Lead singers is the category. 10 questions. How many questions will Josh answer correctly this week? 609-403-0973. Tell us your name, where you're from, and how many questions Josh will answer correctly with the category lead singers. You're playing for a pair of Luke Bryan tickets for June 6 in Camden. 609 403 0973. 10 lead singers. They are right here on this list. I came up with the questions again today, as I did the last 2 weeks. They are the topic. That's the category. How many will Josh answer correctly? 609 403 0973. Please include your name, where you're from, and how many questions you think Josh will correctly answer. The person who is the first person with the correct answer, you will be our winner. If nobody gets the right number, the person who is the closest first. So you can't just sit there and just wait. Get it in, get it in, get it in. All right? Now, if nobody else guesses your number, you're good. But the first person who comes up with that number, you're the winner. You'll get a pair of tickets to Luke Bryan. We'll do that coming up next on the Sports Bash, live, 97.3 ESPN. All right, 3:32, a little fun on a Wednesday. Stump the Sports Geek time. Today's category is lead singers. I have 10 bands. He's got to tell me the lead singer. You guys can win a pair of tickets to Luke Bryant at the Freedom Mortgage, June the 6th. The text messages are in. Your name, where you're from, and how many questions you think Josh will correctly answer today on Stump the Sports Geek. Josh, your level, I should say, of confidence is?
I would say this is like playing roulette because I would say that I know certain musicians and groups and music types better than others.
All right, well, can I add a little bit to the mix here?
Okay.
Most of these bands are from the 90s.
So basically we're really playing roulette here.
Okay, we'll see. Couple outliers.
Okay.
You didn't know Jim Morrison was the lead singer of the Doors. That is concerning.
Yeah, I didn't remember that.
So for all the people out there,
But the Doors were not the 90s.
No, they were not. They're pretty well known, though.
They are pretty well known.
I think Jim Morrison, kind of a cult figure.
Definitely.
Here we go. Playing for Luke Bryant ticket for one lucky listener today. Country Girl, Shake It For Me. Here we go. Band number 1, the Foo Fighters. Who is the lead singer of the Foo Fighters?
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, geez, this is not good. We might have a shutout today if you don't get this one.
I mean, I can name you songs by the Foo Fighters, but I can't remember who actually is the lead singer.
Uh-oh. So the sigh you just heard is all of South Jersey saying, this bleeper's not winning me tickets.
Yeah, all the people who guess like high numbers. This is not a good sign for you.
Do you have any guess?
I don't know. Is it the guy Kennedy?
I don't
Miles
know who
Kennedy?
that is. That is incorrect. Dave Grohl,
Dave Grohl,
the lead singer.
Foo Fighters. That's one of those Seattle groups, right?
Dave Grohl was the drummer for Nirvana.
Okay.
And then when Kurt Cobain died.
So that's why I'm drawing that useless connection there.
Yep.
Gotcha.
This is not good. Question 2. Who is the lead singer of Oasis?
Oh, I definitely don't know this. I was not an Oasis fan.
Ooh, are you passing on this one?
I am. I'm admitting I don't know.
Many people listening yelling right now.
Of course they are.
The lead singer is Liam Gallagher.
Sure. Not Dave Gallagher, Harry.
Nope. No, I should talk to Dave soon here this week. He had a good tweet thread the other day about the Phillies.
A good tweet thread.
Question 3, which feels like I'm going to get a shutout today if you miss those two. I have seen this band perform live 5 times, by the way.
Okay.
Their music is prominently featured on this show. Who is the lead singer of Radiohead?
Oh, I definitely don't know this.
Jeez.
I'm not going to pretend like I know.
Tom York is the lead singer of
Not
Radiohead.
Cam York, Harry.
Nope.
I'm just going to keep naming people who have similar names every time I get these wrong.
There's a lot of people upset right now. Very upset with you.
I mean, I do see some smaller numbers on the board. So there are a few people who had the hint already.
Okay. I don't even know that you know this band now that I'm throwing some out there. Question 4. Who is the lead singer of the Yeah Yeah Yeahs?
Who the heck is that?
There you go.
I mean, I know the Yin Yang Twins.
Karen O is the lead singer.
Oh, all right.
They did a song called Maps. It was pretty popular for a while.
Is it like a one-hit wonder?
Yeah, kind of. They had a couple
Kinda?
songs, but
Okay.
more in the alternative. So I don't know. When did the one-hit wonder? Is there still one-hit wonders?
To me, there are. I mean, there's always going to be people that have like one shot, and that's it. It's harder to do it now because with streaming now, people are more popular based on like their followers and stuff.
Right.
Than
Like
there
the
are radio
one-hit
hits.
wonder is kind of like
Died out.
yeah. All right. Question 5.
We're 0 for 4 so far. Let's go.
Who is the lead singer of the White Stripes?
Yeah, I don't know this either.
Jeez. Really?
No. Really?
Do you know who the White Stripes are?
I know who they are, but were they more like 80s than 90s?
No. They were more 2000s, actually.
Oh, I don't remember them at all then.
Yeah. You hear their song everywhere. Every sporting event, you hear the White Stripes.
What song is that?
Oh,
that's them?
Yes.
Okay.
Jack White is the lead singer.
Not Jack Black.
And some people thought it was his wife, Meg, was the drummer.
Oh. Sounds
You
like
ever see the video with the candy stripe, red, white?
Yes.
That's the White Stripes.
It sounds like this would be a good A&E documentary.
All right, question 6. He is 0 for 5 so far.
I am 0 for 5.
Who
I'm
is the
doing
lead
my best
singer?
Brandon Marsh impersonation here.
Who is the lead singer of REM?
I know REM. I don't know the name lead singer.
Michael Stipe is the lead singer of REM.
Good for Michael.
I really thought you were going to do well in this. I mean, you know music.
I know the music, like I can tell you the songs,
I
but
would
I can't
have-
tell you the lead singers.
I would have got every answer of these. The reason I particularly picked these because I thought they were almost too easy. I thought you were going to do really well. I mean, these are, geez. I don't know that you're getting one here. All right, number 7. Who is the lead singer of The Cure?
Not Cure Auto Insurance.
No. I mean, this guy's name is very generic.
Joe Smith?
Close. Robert Smith.
Not the running back for the Vikings. Remember him?
No. So the people who have 3
3 or
are
less.
still alive.
I see a few threes already on the board from earlier.
Who is the lead singer of Blondie? I mean, this is a gimme.
I mean, is this Courtney Love?
It is not Courtney Love.
All right. I was thinking
Deborah
of-
Harry is
Sure.
the lead singer of Blondie.
Good for Deborah.
Okay, now for the people who thought that Josh had no life, you are all correct. To not know one of these, one would be sufficient for me to feel that you had some. You might get one of these two.
Okay. One of these
These two bands are very well known.
Okay.
Who is the lead singer of Fleetwood Mac?
Oh my goodness, it's the lady.
By the way, I put away the yellow highlighter for correct answers after Oasis and that miss. I have only a red pen in my hand.
Fleetwood Mac.
Mm-hmm.
Stevie Nicks?
Stevie Nicks is correct. Wow. At this point, I think I'd rather you get 0.
I told you I do my best Brandon Marsh impersonation.
He actually he's up to 231.
Yeah, he's up to
He's
231
actually
now.
performed better than you in this.
This is true. I'm 1 for
Question
9.
10. Who is the lead singer of No Doubt?
Oh, Gwen Stefani.
That is correct. For a total
Of 2.
of 2. Not good.
Well, like, for example, I could tell you who the lead singer of Metallica is.
Me too.
James Hetfield.
Yes.
I could tell you the lead singer of Slipknot and Stone Sour is Corey Taylor.
Yeah, Corey Taylor. I know that as well. I mean, come on. And I don't even listen to those bands.
But I do.
Yeah, but these bands everybody has heard of, except for maybe the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. And I was giving you one that I figured, he probably doesn't know who the Yeah Yeah Yeahs are, but she's quirky. People know who she is. She's got a weird name, Karen O. Maybe you don't know who the freaking singer of the Foo Fighters is.
Yeah, that was a bad
I mean,
job
you
on
need
me.
to really do some reading. You yell at people about not knowing the history. This is one of the greatest bands of all time.
I don't watch very music documentaries.
I don't either. I know Dave Grohl's the lead singer of the Foo Fighters.
Now, I will say you used to work in music radio.
That is true.
So you do, I would assume you would know more than me no matter what in this category.
I wouldn't doubt that I would know more. Like I knew all 10 in like an instant. A split second, I can name this in one note.
Mm-hmm.
I figured you'd get 5 would be my. I thought for sure you would have got Foo Fighters, 100%. Fleetwood Mac, no doubt. Those are gimmies, right? You got those two. I'm saying I thought you'd get those two. Blondie, I mean, everybody knows it's Deborah Harry.
Sure.
The Rapture, man. Come on. REM is like, holy mackerel.
I will admit though that REM was one of those groups that like was very popular that like I never really got like heavily into.
I didn't have to be into them. I wasn't like huge into REM, but they were like one of the first kind of like alternative, like college rock, bands that kind of broke through, I guess you could say. 2 questions total. That was what you got there. How do you feel about your performance?
I'm not too angry about it because of the fact that 90s music has always been a bit of a weak point for me. So I could probably tell you more about like hip hop from the 90s and early 2000s.
I should have gone with the hip hop lead singers. Is that what you're saying?
You know, it's like they name the members of NWA. You know,
all of them. I want all the. If you get
all 4, because there's 4 of them. People forget that.
All right, there you go. He got 2 out of 10 for today's Stump the Sports Geek, and that's why it's Stump the Sports Geek. We went right off the sports path, and he showed he has no life outside of sports.
Now,
congratulations!
I feel like if you would have done like
by the way, last week his birthday, he puts a picture up. This is 40. You would think 90s music would be right in a 40-year-old man's wheelhouse.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
But guess what? If you would have said, "Hey, I'm going to give you 10 movies." And name me the lead actor.
Well, it could be another category down the road. But so far on the Eagles, you had how many?
The Eagles, I had 3.
Yeah, not good.
Now, 2 of those were horrible guesses by me, and I should have done better.
Mm-hmm.
I argue I should have gotten
So we've
5.
established that football you did terrible on. Music you did horrendous on. And you know a little bit about the NBA draft, apparently. You got 9 out of 10 last week?
Makes no sense because football is my favorite sport and the NBA is not. But apparently the NBA draft was much more ingrained into my memory.
All right, that was today's Stump the Sports Geek. Thanks for everybody who texted in. We had a ton of text messages today for the Luke Bryan tickets. We will go through them all. The winner will be notified here shortly. And they will be going to see Luke Bryan at Freedom Mortgage. We'll do another Stump the Sports Geek next week here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. And don't forget, live video on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. You can watch the show live. A lot of you streaming in today. Appreciate you. Back with more Sports Bash. Jeff Mosher, football at 4 in 15 minutes. All right, 10 to the top of the hour. This is the White Stripes. Josh didn't know who they were.
A buddy of mine from high school was listening, Mike, and he texted me. He says, "This is the most on-brand Josh moment I've ever listened to on 97.3."
But that's the thing. You know music.
Doesn't mean I know the lead singers.
Bad. Bad. Who's our winner?
Gabe in Northfield.
Good job, Gabe.
Gabe was the first person to guess two.
He
a couple of twos.
He had no faith. Well, he might have got the hint earlier when I asked if you knew who the lead singer of The Doors was,
Yeah.
and you had no clue.
I failed at that. So Gabe took the hint.
That was a little test for the people out there. I didn't give him the category, but I asked him a key question to the witness.
Right.
Do you know who the lead singer of The Doors is? And so if you're paying attention to the show, you get a little clue there.
Yeah, you gave the jury some insight before you further questioned.
Seven Nation Army, by the way, is the name of this ditty by the White Stripes.
Good for the White Stripes. My favorite actually here is for Phil from Brigantine. He says, Josh is like JT in the Rocky series.
Is JT in the Rocky series or all season long? He's hitting like 220. My gosh. All right, Tush Push. The ban is off. The Tush Push is back. That was voted on earlier today. So the Eagles will be keeping the Tush Push play. By the way, the teams that voted, there was 9 teams who voted with the Eagles to keep the Tush Push. Baltimore, New England, Detroit, Jacksonville, the Jets, Tennessee, the Dolphins, the Saints, and Cleveland. The only team of that group that is on their schedule this year is Detroit. Everybody else said, we don't have to deal with them. We're not going to vote against them, I guess.
Do you think that was a factor that the teams who knew the Eagles were on their schedule?
I doubt it, but I find it to be, why did they pick?
Because I'll also add in, remember, coaches didn't vote it. This was NFL owners. So, like, is Josh Harris voting against it because he's in their division? Is Stephen Ross voting with the Eagles because he doesn't care?
Don't know, but the entire NFC East all voted to have the Tush Push banned.
Sounds about
that.
right.
I mean, if I'm these other teams, I'm just saying I don't want to be the team that votes against
Almost
this.
the entire AFC East voted with the Eagles, by the way.
Yeah, the NFL needed 24 votes today to ban the Tush Push. They only got 22. The 10 teams that voted against the Tush Push ban were, as I mentioned, plus the Eagles also voted, so they were the 10th team.
But
9 teams voted against it.
But again, 3 of the 4 AFC East teams were with the Eagles, which is interesting.
The NFC East played them.
Was it 2 years ago?
A couple of years ago, yeah. They don't play them this year because the Eagles only play the Bills. They opened the season with the Patriots. They played the Jets a couple of years ago,
yeah,
right?
the 2023.
Yeah, they played the Dolphins, 2023. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. By the way, we're going to talk a little bit more about this as well. The NBA MVP award has just been announced. Do you know who it is?
I mean, my pick was SGA.
SGA came in first. He is the MVP. Oklahoma City, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander
Who
has
was traded
won.
for?
Luka. No, that was Trae Young. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was traded for
To the Clippers.
Paul
George.
Yes. Oh, that's right. He was in the Paul George deal. Kicking yourself if you're the Clippers. And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast will join us in just a couple minutes today on a day where the Tush Push has not been banned. The Tush Push is back in the NFL. They tried to vote on it again today. They could not get the votes. The Eagles must have done a good job of going around the league and getting the sufficient amount of votes. They needed 8 votes. They got 9 plus theirs. They got 10 votes on it. And, it's something that many people thought was going to get banned. I don't know who the deciding vote was. I'm thinking of the Seinfeld episode where Morty is trying to get the old lady to vote to get him to stay on the board, and they finally convince her. But then she sees that Jerry is Morty's son, and he was the guy that stole the marble rye in New York when he's like, "Give me the rye, you old bag," and then it finally hit her. So she changed her vote. It seemed that nobody changed their vote at the final minutes, although there was a late report that after the voting came down that the owners went into a separate little side session there. And I guess, they were trying to get someone to maybe change their mind. Maybe the NFL was trying to be the muscle there and push them into it. Jason Kelsey, on the latest edition of the New Heights podcast, he was at the owners' meeting, and he said he went to go to Minnesota because, as he explains, that there was a lot of false statements about the Tush Push, that some of the owners were literally trying to say that Kelsey retired due to the wear and tear on his body because of the Tush Push.
I'm actually going to Minnesota. What? So there were some things said at the last owners meeting. Some of the owners and coaches hinted that the reason I stopped playing was because of the Tush Push and that I got hurt on the Tush Push frequently.
What the?
I'm just going to answer any questions people have about my partaking in this play.
So here's Kelsey walking around like, "Hey, anybody want to ask me questions about the Tush Push?" He's basically saying that there were owners who were saying that Kelsey retired in part because the injuries from the Tush Push were so detrimental to him that he just couldn't keep on going. And he said, yes, that was totally made up and false, that was not the case. Now, he also went on to say that he didn't really care if the Tush Push was allowed or not, and this is the reason.
I don't care whether it gets banned or not. I think that at the end of the day, vote on things, and if they vote to ban the Tush Push, the Eagles are still going to run quarterback sneak at a very high percentage. I'm just going to offer any type of if anybody has any questions about the Tush Push or whether I retired because of the Tush Push, I'll tell you this right now. I'll come out of retirement today if you tell me all I got to do is run 80 Tush Pushes to play in the NFL. I'll do that gladly. It'll be the easiest job in the world, and it'll be like 80-some snaps.
So Kelsey says I could come out and just run that play because a lot of the conversation was about the safety, the health and safety of players. And Kelsey's essentially saying, look, that play's the easiest play to run. If I could run that thing 80 times, I'd be great. So a lot of misconceptions about the said play. Now, that being said, the play is not going to be banned. I would imagine somebody next year is going to try to bring it up again, and I would imagine, again, they're going to lobby all season long to try to get this thing banned, and the league doesn't want it. I don't think that's a secret. I think the league wants this play gone. I don't think it's because the Eagles do it. I think they just don't like the play, and they want it out. The Eagles did a good job. Apparently, Jeffrey Lurie got to some owners. He was kind of lobbying and pitching why he felt the play should have remained. And the teams that voted in favor of it were a little odd. I mean, it was just random AFC East teams, the Jets, the Patriots, the Dolphins were another one. The Bills did not. The Bills, who run it the second most after the Eagles, they voted it down. They did not want the play anymore. So I thought that was a little bizarre. We knew that going in that the Bills were against it. Other teams that voted for it, Baltimore, Cleveland. So you got a couple teams in the AFC North that don't have to really play the Eagles. The Detroit Lions were another team that decided, hey, you know what? And they play the Eagles this year. So you heard what Jason Kelsey said. The Tush Push ban falls short. They needed 24 votes. They only got 22. votes. So the tush push stays at least another year.
I wanted to point out that there's reporting out there that apparently it's now fully coming out. The NFL was the ones who went to the Packers and asked them to push this.
Bad look by
to
them,
the front.
man.
So now there's almost a question of, let me ask you, Mike. We know in the past the NFL has given a very rigorous process in terms of making sure new ownership gets in, right? Is there going to be a conversation where, hey, we'll let you be the next owner of said team? You know, the Broncos are a team that's been for sale recently. Does the NFL ask the new owner, you're going to be the next guy to put this proposal up next year?
They could go to any team that voted against it, I would imagine. Hey, just go around the room. Hey, now it's your turn to put it up. Green Bay did the dirty work last year. Now it's your turn. I would imagine it will be up for vote again next year. And I would imagine this year Roger Goodell will go around the league and he will try to talk to the 9 teams that voted against banning it and try to get 1 or 2 of them to have their Marlboro Rye stolen, right?
Yeah.
And basically say, you don't have the votes, Jeffrey Lurie. And Lurie goes around and he's trying. But I think it's clear the NFL does not want the play because they don't like the look of it. They think the play is a not aesthetically pleasing play, not a reason to get rid of it in my mind. If they just would have said, look, the pushing or pulling of the player gives the offense an unfair advantage, that's the reasoning why we decided to kind of get rid of this play. Jordan Mailata said they will run the tush push, whether it's banned or not. Here's what Jordan Mailata said on Tuesday.
They call it, we run it. Simple. We know the technique that we need to do. We know where we need to be.
But as far as them potentially removing it from the game to you guys?
Yeah, man, that's not up to us. And we can't control they rule it or not. But they're ruling the push.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we just do it without no push then. I think that's the solution.
Seemed very matter-of-fact to Jordan Mailata, and I want to get Jeff Mosher's take on this. And Jeff, of course, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, brought to you by Bet365 from PhillyVoice.com and Inside the Birds. As Mosher, were you at the press conference yesterday?
I was, sir.
All right. I thought I heard your voice. I don't know if you did ask a question or not, but I thought I heard
the best answer. I got the best one from Jalen Hurts.
Right, I was going to say, I thought I heard your voice asking questions throughout the day, or maybe the Hurts question. I definitively thought I heard you. So you were there yesterday. It was a weird situation. You have an extension. It was almost like you said, does anybody want to go talk in for Nick here? I want to get to that, but the tush push thing, it did pass today. I don't know if you found it interesting or anything about the teams that voted for as opposed to the teams that voted against. They got 9 teams to come on their side. One of them is on the schedule this year. The other 8 were not on their schedule. The entire NFC East voted against it, but the Eagles will get this for another year. But what do you think, Jeff, about the league reportedly telling the Packers to vote for this to get rid of it?
Yeah, I don't know. I know that there's a report about that, and it seems a little strange that a league would force one particular team. I guess because the Packers have been the most outspoken, or were they not? And then the league wanted them to be the ones. The Packers are an interesting team to. Again, I think every team in some form or fashion tried something like this, and the Packers were doing it with their tight end. They did it twice against the Eagles, where they motioned their tight end behind center, took the snap, and pushed him forward. So they were an odd team to speak out so loudly against it. But my big takeaway from the press conferences, Mike, was that the Eagles were very, at least the ones they put in front of the cameras yesterday and the microphones, I think it was strategical how ambivalent they were about the rule potentially the play potentially being banned. I think as a team, they've made a conscious effort to move on, whether it's going to be in the, regulated out or not, and to sort of not let that define their success. I think that was intentional. I can't prove that, but the way they were all, the front office fought vociferously for it during the meetings, but the way the players and even Nick Sirianni yesterday were just very matter of fact about it made me think that they're not allowing this to become so pervasive, right, that it's going to be something that they walk around feeling sour grapes about, which I think is a really smart strategy. Basically saying we're better, we're more than this. We've got a bunch of crybabies in the league. We can't do anything about it. I think A.J. Brown said it best, right? What? It's just a yard, right? So, and I like how Jordan Mailata put it. He said, I guess we'll just run something else,
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And you heard we played the Jason Kelsey stuff on the New Heights podcast, him and his brother saying, look, they're 92% successful with or without this play on getting that yard. It doesn't seem like they thought that it was as big a deal as everybody seems. It's just more like, hey, were they targeting the Eagles for some particular reason?
I don't think so. I think if there were another team doing it as successfully as they did, it would probably still be come under scrutiny. Maybe they're just targeting a team that has success, like the Patriots were.
Well, because they did not vote on this when the Eagles were not very good in 2023. This did not come up.
Right. No. It came up a little bit in 2023.
Did they vote on it?
I don't know if they voted, but it was starting to make the rounds of discussions at that point. I think that there were concerns raised about it if we go back that far. But you go back to like the Patriots, right? The Tuck rule, that was a team that won. Now they were very early in their stages. They weren't the dynasty Patriots yet, but that was a rule that favored a team that was having a lot of success at the time. So I do think sometimes subconsciously organizations in the NFL look at like things that successful teams do and start to question whether or not that should be permissible.
Yeah. All right, Moshe, a couple other things I want to get into that kind of came down the wire today before we get to some of the things that you were at the press conference yesterday. Nick Sirianni obviously gets that extension. We'll talk about that in a minute, but we're going to get a little inside look at Nick Sirianni. The entire NFC East will be featured on Hard Knocks this year. They will be the in-season Hard Knocks. So you will see Eagles, Giants, Commanders, and Dallas. If you are trying to break down the amount of exposure these four teams get and you're producing that show, what is it going to look like? Because this one could be a whopper.
Yeah, I imagine the Cowboys will be featured pretty prominently on it because, they always are.
Well, it's interesting, though, because of the timing of this. Now, that's assuming we think the Cowboys are probably – because it's in December. It's going to air in December. So usually they did it like in real time almost, like for 4 weeks. So you're probably going to be getting them like in November, probably around Thanksgiving, as these episodes are going to air in December.
Right. That's a good point. And so we really don't know which of the four teams is going to give you the most good film and good footage because the season has to take on a life of its own.
Right. Well, that's going to be very interesting because I think the Eagles would be so anti doing Hard Knocks. So the league is basically saying, we'll find a way to get you on. How about the whole division? And the Giants are now back on there.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is from an Eagles-Cowboys standpoint is those games will be over most likely by the time we see, if it's really going to be November or even late October, then you're probably not going to get the lead up to Eagles-Cowboys. But however, you will get it for Eagles Commanders possibly.
Maybe not, though. No, because the show's going to air in December. You will not get the two Commanders games because they're going to be like afterwards. So you'll probably get no NFC East, actual games there. You might get Eagles later in the year. What are you going to get? Maybe Eagles.
Because that second Cowboys game, maybe then. Right, I forget when that game is, but yeah, we'll see. It'll be good fodder. I just think it's funny as you just mentioned that the Giants are going to inadvertently get themselves back into the Hard Knocks after the disaster of their offseason.
And by that time, they might be out of it. So a lot of the stuff could be them discussing whether or not they should fire the coach, fire the GM. I mean, that could just be theater right there, right?
Oh, it sure could be.
Yeah, by the way, right before December, the Eagles do play Dallas so it could be Detroit, Dallas, and the Bears. Those games, it could be Green Bay. Actually, if you do the 4 Novembers, that's 4 weeks. I think last year they had 4 episodes, and I think it was 8 episodes. Oh, okay, it was 8 episodes. So they might film from October, November, and then air them in December.
Okay. Well, that'll be interesting then.
Yes, that changes the dynamics a little bit. All right. Nick Sirianni, I want to start there. I said yesterday, this guy is the most improbable success story. He is the most improbable Philly sports success story maybe ever. The guy is literally Rocky Balboa. He should be the most popular sports figure in the city maybe ever, and yet people still not sold on him 100%. Like, this guy should be the most beloved, even if you are irrational in your love for this guy. It's the most improbable Philly sports story ever. This guy came from nowhere, gets to be the head coach of the Eagles, and wins the Super Bowl. And why do people still not believe?
I don't know. I mean, and by the way, it's not just win the Super Bowl. I mean, he's been to two. His winning. It's not like it came out of nowhere either. I mean, it's really remarkable. All of his historic win rates. You know, whether it's overall wins, road wins, he's one of the best. I get maybe it's just. You know, we talked about this on Monday, and it's not a fair thing, but it's constantly brought up that he has these great rosters put together by Howie Roseman, and it kind of creates this just don't screw it up type of environment for Nick, or at least public perception environment for Nick. But I think that does undermine how much it takes to be an NFL head coach and how hard it is to especially hold things together after this kind of slide they had in 2023.
Yeah, I know that he is – I don't know. What is it about Nick that you think that he hasn't connected with the fan base the way that a Super Bowl – Doug Peterson, when they won the Super Bowl, people that were kind of like, I don't know about Doug. When he won the Super Bowl, he won everybody over pretty much. I mean, yeah, there might have been a small minority that was still like, whatever. Why hasn't Nick won people over?
I don't think that I'm not sure that he hasn't. I mean, I haven't seen any poll that says he's an unpopular guy. Is he a hero like he should be, to your point? Maybe not. And again, part of that might just, I feel like if you did a poll, and not on Twitter because you get some weird responses there, but I don't know, if you asked 100 diehard Eagles fans, who do you think is the most important person in the franchise, and just said A, Nick Sirianni, or B, Howie Roseman, I think Howie would win that poll. So I think that just goes to show again that Nick is penalized a little bit by the whole just don't screw it up notion that he's been saddled with because he's had loaded teams, which again, I'm not saying is fair or unfair. I think that kind of like how Howie had to finally win without Andy Reid here to really be beloved and respected. It may have to be the same thing where Nick may have to someday win a Super Bowl here when Howie's, already retired or something, for people to say, hey, you know what? He actually is a good coach. It's not just that he's handed loaded teams.
Yeah, it is funny because, one of the things I feel like some people say, he panders, he's a little this, or I don't like the way he acts. But I feel like that's everything that the Philadelphia fan wants. He almost is like, your buddy got hired to coach the Eagles, right? And he's just out there still being the stupid friend that you had, and he hasn't changed, and yet he just got to be the Eagles head coach, and he's out there, and he's telling the other team's fans off, and he's mugging for the camera. Like, he's, the guy from Delco.
Yeah. Man, Delco getting shrapnel here, deservedly. No, I decided a long time ago, Mike, doing this where in our industry, we do try to kind of get a consensus opinion or build like, what do the fans want? And in many cases, there are plenty of cases where the fans are one-sided one way or another, right? There are some cases where it almost feels like 50-50, like the process with the Sixers. But the one thing I try not to do is make the fan base out to be a monolith. So when you're talking about the fans, I think there are a lot of fans that do love that part of Nick Sirianni, and there are some that it's just not their cup of tea, but they still really like what he's done and respect him as a head coach. And it's hard. I mean, I can't name too many coaches in this city over the past 10 to 15 years who were universally beloved, where you could say the fans loved. I mean, Charlie Manuel won a World Series. He had skeptics, right? So I feel like there's just not that. That's the way we are as a society. Unless you win like six championships, unless you're Phil Jackson, right? or Scotty Bowman or something like that, you're Bill Belichick, you're probably going to have your sort of legion of doubters or skeptics or people who have some nitpick or bone to pick with you.
You said, you talked to Jalen Hurts about the evolving offense coming up in 2025 here. They're going to have another new coordinator here. I think what he said yesterday, he was asked about Kevin Petula and what he thinks what the offense is going to look like. I mean, this is the fourth straight year he will have a new offense. How will this offense kind of evolve in his mind?
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway that I wrote about for Philly Voice, which is up right now on phillyvoice.com, is that there was a lot of talk from Jalen, from A.J. Brown, Jordan Mailata, about Kevin Petullo, about the offense. Nick Sirianni also did, and the need to evolve, the need to incorporate fresh concepts, the need to not be stagnant in a league where you're getting studied, especially when you win. The way the Eagles were, and everybody knows how they won last year with Saquon Barkley and their running attack for the most part. And that was really Jalen Hurts. I said, why is that important to you? And he took a really long pause, Mike. And I said, my question was, why is it so important that you evolve when you've had so much success doing what you're doing? Long pause. And then he went into a phrase that I believe he got from Michael Jordan when he chatted with Michael Jordan as being a Jordan Brand spokesperson, which is I said that you have to detect, decode, and correct, I believe, were the three pillars there of what he was talking about, which I think, again, came from Michael Jordan. Decode, detect, and correct. And then he talked about refining. And I just can't help but think about, Mike, 2023, coming off that Super Bowl of 2022 when everything looked great. Yes, they lost to the Chiefs. It was a great game, scored a lot of points, but they were not the same offensively, despite having a lot of the same players. They fell off, and you remember at the end of the year when Nick was firing his OC and parting ways with the quarterbacks coach, bringing Kellen Moore, he said, my offense got stale, and we need new concepts. So I can't help but think that they've learned from that with now another new offensive coordinator and an outside quarterbacks coach, which I think is good. You got an in-house guy and an outside guy that you don't just carry over everything you did the year before. You add, you refine. Now, whether or not they can do that, to me, is the big question. But certainly it's on their minds that they need to evolve.
All right, Jeff Mosher. By the way, before we get out of here today, it was a Stump the Sports Geek Day. The category was lead singers. How would you think you would do?
What era?
It was mostly 90s, a little early 2000s, and a little like 80s. Little.
I'm probably not great where if the whole idea is you give me the band and I have to give you the lead singer, then I might struggle. I'm pretty good with individual artists, but go ahead.
All right, do you know who the lead singer of the Foo Fighters is?
David Kroll from Nirvana, right? It's Kroll.
Dave Grohl, yes.
Dave Grohl, yes. Not Kroll, yeah.
All right. Do you know who the lead singer of Oasis is?
It's an Irish-sounding name. I want to say Liam Gallagher.
You are correct.
Okay.
Do you know who the lead singer of Radiohead?
The lead singer of Radiohead. Man, he has a very distinct voice, but I don't know his name.
All right, Tom York. Do you know who the lead singer of the White Stripes is?
No.
Jack White. Do you know who the lead singer of REM is?
Michael Stipe.
That is correct. The Cure.
Oh, God, I love The Cure, and I can see his fuzzy hair. I just can't remember his freaking name right now. That's just because I'm on the spot. If you would ask me like yesterday, I'd probably be able to say it, but I'm drawing up Thomas. Wait, is it Thomas something?
No.
No? Okay, what is it?
Josh almost guessed it by I said it's a really plain, bland name. He said Joe Smith. It's Robert Smith.
Robert Smith. That's right. Yeah. Yes. Oh,
do you know the lead singer of Blondie?
Debbie Harry.
That's correct. You said that so matter-of-factly. I figured Josh would have got that like everybody would have. Fleetwood Mac.
Stevie Nicks?
Yes.
Okay.
No Doubt.
Gwyneth. No, I almost said Gwyneth Paltrow, the actress, but it's Gwen Stefani.
That is correct. All right, so you got a lot of these. Josh got 2.
That does not surprise me whatsoever.
Well, the listeners were playing for Luke Bryan tickets, and he, screwed them.
Oh, that's too bad. Josh, next time you need a pinch hitter, you call me up, all right, buddy?
Yeah, next time we'll have to do it where you have a phone a friend, and Mosher will step in there for you. All right, there's Jeff Mosher. Was there anything else from the press conferences that you wanted to add that stood out?
I thought it was interesting. Nick Sirianni has. You remember how Howie Roseman got banished by Chip Kelly and spent the time off, really talking to other executives to try to be better, and that was after a after a bad year. Nick Sirianni wins the Super Bowl. He winds up talking to people like Nick Saban, Dawn Staley, Gino Auriemma, people who have won multiple championships. Right, his college head coach, who's won, I believe, a couple of D3 championships, on what do I have to do now that I've won one to make sure that I can keep continuing, or what's the best advice, So I thought that was another example of Nick Sirianni not being complacent. For whatever we say about him, has a really good head on his shoulders and an understanding of what it takes to succeed.
All right, well, good stuff. PhillyVoice.com. He's got a piece up on the offense evolving, some of the stuff that Jalen Hurts had to say yesterday about his new head coach and his new offense. Check that out at PhillyVoice.com. And, of course, check out the latest Inside the Birds podcast, which you can check out on all podcasting platforms. Just search Inside the Birds. All right, Jeff Mosher. See you, man.
See you guys.
All right, there you go. Jeff Mosher, Football at 4, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video, streaming on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. You can subscribe, be a part of the show, as many of you have been. A lot of people streaming the show today. You can watch on your home computer, laptop, phone, tablet, wherever you stream, you could watch the Sports Bash. Coming up, the Tush Push is back. The Eagles are going to be on Hard Knocks, kinda. We'll have the details on that coming up. Plus, Phillies tonight. We'll have the lineup in about an hour from now. We'll get you that. Sal Paolantonio, 5 o'clock tonight. More Sports Bash on the way. All right, 434, Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. So what did Mosher get? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 he got right. He got 6 right.
Good for him.
He's pretty good. All right, more Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. 6 lead singers Mosher got right. Josh got 2. But it produced a winner, Gabe in Ocean City. Gabe in Northfield.
Gabe in Northfield. Yeah, Gabe in Northfield is the winner of the Luke Bryan tickets.
Yeah.
Listen, first of all, Gabe did a very good job. He followed the hints. He was paying attention, and he picked a number that made sense. There are a couple other people who had 3, a couple people, but he had 2. So we give him credit for that.
Yeah. Now, somebody said it was a BS topic because it's the Stump the Sports Geek.
I don't know if it's a BS topic, but I do think that there is something to be said for the fact that I would say that the majority of the bands that you had lead singers of on that list are bands that you are a fan of or you're very familiar with. There wasn't a lot of bands that maybe I'm familiar with.
I picked bands that I thought everyone was familiar with, whether they were fans of them or not. I'm not a Slipknot guy, but I know Corey Taylor's the lead singer.
So do I.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. You pointed Slipknot out.
Well, I hate Slipknot.
Yeah, I'm not a Slipknot guy, but I know, was he number 8? What number was Corey?
I don't remember exactly.
For the Slipknot, they wore the mask and they had numbers on the mask.
I just remember when I was in high school, I used to argue about all the time. I couldn't stand Slipknot. I thought their music was stupid.
Wasn't he the lead singer of Stone Sour?
No, I like Stone Sour.
Yeah, they're horrible.
That was always my argument. I would be like, listen.
But I know that. I know
like
that he's
Stone Sour.
also the lead singer of a band that I think is horrendous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I know Chad Kroeger is the lead singer for Nickelback, but I
doesn't
think
mean you like them.
Correct.
That
was my point in this one was, all right, maybe you're not a Foo Fighters fan, but I mean, everybody knows that Dave Grohl is the singer. He was the drummer for Nirvana.
Now, I also would say that you would
Do you know who the lead singer of Nirvana is, by the way?
Kurt Cobain.
Oh, there you go. All right.
The guy who passed away.
Yes.
Who was married to Courtney Love.
Yeah, see? There's a lot going on there.
A lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
I guess the more complicated it is, the more I know about it.
Right. What were you saying?
I was just going to say that also you have a background in music radio, so I would always assume that you know more of these than I would.
I'm not doubting that I know more if you put us one against the other. I just thought that you would know some as opposed to none.
Like if there was 30 bands, I would say that you would probably get 25 out of 30.
Likely. Good chance. I mean, I know stupid stuff like that.
I know stupid stuff about movies, so.
Yeah, if you asked me movie stuff, I probably would not do all that.
Like if we named 30 movies, I would say probably you could name 10 of the 30 lead actors.
Maybe. I mean, you know what's so weird? We were talking earlier about one-hit wonders.
Yeah.
Like a one-hit wonder almost doesn't exist anymore just because of the way music is presented.
Distributed, yeah.
So maybe, I don't know though. I mean, it's funny. We work at a radio station. We have 5 music stations or 4 other music stations in the building. I have no idea the process of what gets a song on the radio anymore. So I guess theoretically there could be one-hit wonders in terms of songs. You got one band, what that got radio airplay, but then that band had nothing else. I mean, that's a whole category.
Right.
One-hit wonders.
I mean, literally half the 80s was that.
Right. So, did that go away?
I feel like it did because, in today's world, if you follow musicians online, they don't tell you, tune into the radio or listen to my. They say, hey, I'm dropping this on Spotify or YouTube Music this Friday.
Well, that's everything. I saw yesterday was the final episode of Cheers aired on yesterday's date. I think 1993 was the last. Was it 25?
It was either 93 or 95 was the last episode of Cheers.
So
I have to look it up.
The people were, posting the last scene from Cheers where Norm and Sam are having the conversation and the bar's empty.
93.
And then the guy knocks on the door and Sam says, sorry, we're closed. And then, he kind of fades away and that's it. How somebody today becomes the level of television star that those people became. It almost feels like there is not that level unless we just don't know who they are. Like, I know that there's a lot of shows on Netflix and Amazon Prime and Apple Plus, but are they the same level of notoriety and stardom as an actor as those people were in those sitcoms? You know, I saw the other day, I was listening to a podcast this morning, actually. Fox TV has 4 hours of scripted programming in their lineup. That's it. Like
Not
a
surprising.
scripted television show. And it's, I believe, an animation show.
There's a couple animation shows that are still creating new content on Fox for sure. But I was just going to say that to your question about the actors, to me, what makes the actors different today is that there's a lot of crossover between streaming, television, and movie actors now. Like Pedro Pascal is like one of the biggest names in Hollywood right now.
Never heard of him.
He's on the show This Is Us. He's been, or is it The Last of Us? There's two different shows. One is This Is Us, one is The Last of Us. But he's on that show. He's been in tons of movies. He's been in different shows. You know, you have a guy like, oh my goodness, the guy from The Office. I see his name right now, and I'm forgetting his name. Jim, the guy who played Jim on The Office.
Yeah.
Someone out there can help me. But he's been in a ton of stuff. And, like, these guys are on so many shows and so many movies on Amazon Prime and Netflix and this and that I think that today the famous actor is the guy who...
John Krasinski.
John Krasinski, thank you. There's so many actors who are just, it's like crossover. It's not like back in the day where like there was one group who are only TV actors and one group who are only movie
Well,
actors.
it felt like, you know, you started off on television and then you tried to get to the big screen. Like that was your goal, is like, hey, I'm a TV star, but I really want to become a movie star.
Mm-hmm.
Like being a movie star was a bigger deal than being a TV star. And I feel like I'm watching some of these Netflix shows or these Amazon Prime shows and I'm like, it's weird because a lot of times you're like, I don't know any of these actors. I have no idea who they are. I've never seen them in anything. Now, that could just be maybe I'm getting older and some of these people are new. I don't know. But then you start to see some, like Nicole Kidman was just in a show that I was watching on Netflix or Amazon, one of the two. And I was like, where did they find Nicole Kidman?
Well, like, look what
and she
happened.
was in some random, like 10 episode miniseries.
Well, what was that show on Apple TV Plus you said you were watching with? It had Harrison Ford in it.
Yes, and Jason Segel.
Yeah. So, like, Harrison Ford, I was watching him and do an interview about that because he talked about, he's like, I had never done a television show or a streaming show in my life before that. And he said he was so used to movie production that when he went to start doing stream production, he didn't understand the pacing of it. He said it was like a different environment altogether. So he said it was like going to school for the first time.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman was in a show called The Perfect Couple that was streaming on Netflix. It was like a 10-episode thing, but I don't really know anybody else that was in. I guess Dakota Fanning.
I know Dakota Fanning.
Yeah,
is.
she was in that. But yeah, like it's weird how the level of like television star, 83 million people, I think they said, watched the Cheers finale. I think that was the number, 83 million. 83 million people don't even have cable anymore.
No, but there are 83 million people who will watch something on streaming. And that's the difference. And that's why, to me, it's like today's famous actors are crossovers. They're all in so many different projects that you could sit there and look at said actor and be like, oh, yeah, they're from these two shows and these two movies.
Yeah. All right, so a couple things we're going to get into on the other side here. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. There is a radio host who does a national radio show who kind of went off on Nick Sirianni yesterday after I said that he's Rocky Balboa. Now, I don't know that he took my Rocky Balboa and used that for his segment, but I will say that he obviously doesn't like Nick Sirianni as a head coach. You'll hear that coming up next on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, 449. Ben Maller is a radio host. He's a national host on Fox Sports Radio. I am familiar with Ben. You can see him on TV sometimes. You ever go to like the bar during the football season, and there's a show that he does. It's called Benny and the Penny. You ever see that show?
Nope.
It's like a sports like betting show.
I believe you. I'm
And
sure
Benny,
it is
I'm not questioning whether you believe me or not. It's a real show. It's called Benny and the Penny. There's a guy, I guess his last name must be Penny or something or another. I have no clue, but
catchy.
Benny and the Penny. So they go back and forth through all the games, and they give betting picks. Very kind of low-produced, low-budgety, much like Maller's takes here. So Sirianni gets an extension after he wins a Super Bowl, which is, by the way, the second time he's been to the Super Bowl. He wins 70% of his games, and yet it seems that Ben Maller, radio host Fox Sports Radio, is not sold on Nick Sirianni deserving to get this extension. As he says, if he is a stock, he is a volatile stock.
Nick Sirianni, if he was a stock, he is a highly volatile stock. And the kind of a stock that could deliver you big gains, win a Super Bowl, and easily wipe out those big gains in your portfolio by being a knucklehead. And so that's the issue. Like I look at Sirianni as like the Huey Lewis and the News type coach there, right? Sirianni's not there for a long time in Philadelphia, but man, is he there for a good time.
What is the goal here, right? What is the goal? Do you want to win a Super Bowl, or do you want to appease the Ben Mallers of the world? Like, he's a volatile stock. Isn't that the coaching profession? You just saw Michael Malone win a championship, and then 2 years later, he's fired. How many different coaches get fired quickly after success? It seems to happen more and more and more. So even if Ben Maller is correct, Sirianni won the Super Bowl. What are they supposed to do? Say, hey, congratulations, you won the Super Bowl. Now get the heck out? As Maller says here, Sirianni's antics are unprofessional.
Sirianni's sideline antics and the total lack of professionalism, which is great for talk radio. I mean, don't get me wrong. As a talk show host, I love Nick Sirianni. He's amateur. He does everything you're not supposed to do as a grown-up, and it's good for talk radio. It's really great. Like, fans heckle him, and he's a pompous a-hole schmuck. All the stuff you're taught not to do, he does.
So the unprofessional thing to do would be, if you won the Super Bowl, basically show him the door. The Eagles are showing the professionalism that he and the courtesy that he showed them by giving him the multi-year extension. Why? Because he reached the highest level of coaching. He won a championship. Now, you're saying he's a schmuck and all these things. Let's be honest. Is he the coach that we grew up with? Is he Tom Landry wearing a hat, a suit? Coaching's changed, Ben. You need to change with it. Sports have changed. 10 years ago, the coach didn't have to worry about whether his players are saying something on a podcast, posting something on social media, doing something on TikTok, playing a video game against somebody and saying something stupid over the video game stream. If you don't want to evolve as someone who covers the game, maybe you're the schmuck. Maybe, because as Maller says here, Sirianni can't control his emotions, and this is why the Eagles, or he says, and he is not the reason why the Eagles win.
He bites back. He doesn't keep his composure, right? Emotional outbursts. And it's fine if the Eagles are winning, and it's not going to last, right? The Eagles, if you look at the Eagles right now, I would argue the success of the Eagles is based more on a byproduct of the talent than it is any kind of amazing coaching prowess of Nick Sirianni.
So what are we trying to prove here? That the coach is just standing there and the team wins without him, but when the team loses, we blame the coach, right? Is that the easy way out to say, you're only a part of this when they lose, but you are no part of it when they win? It is just another lazy take in a new world of sports where the coach doesn't have to be an X and O genius. What he does need to be is a ultimate leader of men, have the respect of the players on his team, and be great because of the greatness of others. To steal a line from Nick Sirianni, which is, know your limitations. I don't need to call the plays. You know why? I have people that I trust. And when you can trust others, you have a much better opportunity to grow into something special. And that's why Nick Sirianni won a Super Bowl. More Sports Bash coming up. 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Sal Paolantonio joins me next. All right, 5 o'clock, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. This hour brought to you by Broadlee's Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, your trusted source for heating, plumbing, service, installation. 609-390-3907, online, broadlees.net. Well, that is the celebration in Philadelphia. The Eagles' social media account today has been the champion. They are just absolutely relishing in this decision today. Give them some bonus points. Sal Paolantonio is here, ESPN's national NFL correspondent. Want to weigh in on the Tush Push. Jeffrey Lurie knew the Tush Push was in trouble, so how did they get it passed? 9 teams voted for. The Eagles were the 10th. The Lions were the only team on the schedule this year that voted for it in favor. All 3 NFC East teams, Washington, New York, and Dallas, voted against it. We bring in Sal Paolantonio right now on a Tush Push Wednesday here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Well, it felt like this thing was going away. What happened? How did it get saved at the last minute, Sal?
Well, I think, first of all, they outsmarted themselves. Let's talk about that first. Number one, they couldn't get it passed in March. The vote was 16-16 because the language was very specific in banning the Tush Push, banning the brotherly shove. And so they decided, okay, and it was the league that was really pushing this. The Packers were the stalking horse. The Packers and Mark Murphy were the guys that he's retiring. Mark Murphy, he's the longtime president of the team, and he's friends with Roger Goodell, and he was put up to do this. The Packers organization has been, not very vocal about it at all. So it really was a league maneuver. And the league, along with the competition committee, the chairman of the competition committee, Rich McKay, decided to make it very broad. And the language of the final proposal that was put before the committee at noon today in Minneapolis said that no player shall assist a runner, either push or pull the runner, the ball carrier, at any time. The only way to help the runner is to block. Now, this was, of course, the way it used to be until they lifted that ban in 2005.
Right.
So for 20 years, Mike, 20 years, you've been allowed to push and pull the ball carrier. Now, if you've been allowed to do it for 20 years and there's been no catastrophic injury, quote unquote catastrophic injury, then your whole reason to ban the Tush Push goes away.
Yeah. It's weird.
There's been no instance whatsoever of catastrophic injury. And that was the main reason why they wanted to get rid of the brotherly shove. So they outsmarted themselves. Then the second thing is they really never had 24 votes. They kept arm twisting and they kept maneuvering behind the scenes that they could do it. And there was no way they were going to get the 24 votes. I said that on Channel 6 on Tuesday morning. They didn't have the votes. The most shocking thing, Mike, is they never take a vote on anything this controversial unless they have the votes.
Right.
I am surprised, shocked, really, that they put this up for a vote and knocked it down.
Yeah, and it seems that Jeffrey Lurie, at the end here, there's some reporting that getting a big assist from Jason Kelce. I mean, Kelce ended up going to Minnesota, and there was a lot of people that were saying, well, Kelce couldn't play. That was one of the reasons why he retired, this play here. And he's saying that's not true at all. And was that a factor in some of these teams changing their mind?
Don't know. It's a great move. It's also unprecedented. I've been covering the league for 30 years. I've been to 24 league meetings. I've never heard of a player coming in and addressing the owners. Those owners' meetings are closed only to the owners and the senior staff of the National Football League. So that was a pretty slick move by Lurie, for sure, to put to bed the idea that maybe Jason Kelce retired because of an injury during Tush Push. Now, I don't know, but the Lions were the key vote. The Lions were never going to vote for anything that the Packers voted for. There was no way that was happening.
We were talking about that earlier, Sal, is that they play the Eagles this year, but they said we're not going to upset the apple cart with them, and we are certainly not teaming up with you, Green Bay. So the vote that flips it is basically Detroit, who's on the Eagles schedule. They were the only team on the Eagles schedule that supported them.
Yeah, and it goes against Dan Campbell's philosophy, the head coach of the Lions, Dan Campbell. He's about as old school as it gets. He's a tough guy, football player, former tight end. He's the one that said, we're going to bite your kneecaps if you knock us down.
Right, exactly.
So, he was never going to vote for something that would ban the brotherly shove. I prefer to call it the brotherly shove. And we learned once and for all that the city of Philadelphia is the city that shoves you back.
Well, and what did Jordan Mailata say yesterday? I hate that name. It's stupid, the Tush Push. So
call it brotherly shove. I like brotherly shove.
Brotherly shove it is. Lori spoke today. I guess Seth Wickerstam over at ESPN.com just put out a huge piece on this, that he spoke for almost an hour criticizing the NFL, Roger Goodell, Troy Vincent, who, of course, played for the Eagles, who tried to basically twist the arms of these teams to ban the play. And some people say, why does the NFL want the play gone?
Aesthetics, mostly. I think they just looked at it and said, this is a league that's promoting flag football. So, it doesn't look good, doesn't look like modern football. You got to remember, though, the Eagles were one of the top scoring teams in the league last year. Tush Push is a minor part of what they do. It sets up some things that they do, but it also, let's be clear about this. Other teams can't execute it for three reasons. One, the design of Jeff Stoutland's running game. He's the one that designed this thing. Mm-hmm. Two, the Eagles we've documented it. I talked about it on the show. They have the heaviest offensive line in the National Football League, the biggest O-line in the league. That counts for a lot. Three, you got a quarterback whose benches, 400 pounds, and can squat another 550, 575, 600, depending on the time of day. So he's got tremendous power in his legs. But go back to Kelsey for a second. I did a piece with Kelsey about brotherly shove last year, and he explained to me that the snap timing is so important. And if you go and you look at other teams that can't execute it properly, it's the center and the quarterback exchange that really is their problem. They can't execute it with the right timing. So it's timing, it's design, and it's personnel.
Yeah, Jason Kelsey, by the way, Jerry Jones, I should say, did admit that the Eagles' offensive line prowess is impressive as to, one of the reasons why it's so successful. I guess the odd part is, because Buffalo voted against it, they're pretty good at it. Why other teams have not tried or even really done what Philadelphia and Buffalo to some extent has done. I mean, Green Bay did use it with a tight end in the playoff game. So do you anticipate, Sal, that more teams will now say, look, we tried to get this thing out. Let's just try to do something. Let's try to emulate.
Well, then they're going to defeat the purpose, right? If teams start trying to imitate it, and then vote against it. What hypocrites.
Yeah. Well, Buffalo, they do it all the time, and they were one of the vocal ones against it, remember?
Yeah, they're the only one, though. But if you're asking me the question, do you think other teams will try to imitate it? My answer to that is no, because if they want to get it banned, the last thing they want to do is try to imitate it. Then they'll look like real hypocrites. And I think there's just a lot of teams out there that they don't have the size of the offensive line that the Eagles have, and B, don't have a quarterback who's got the power in his legs to pull it off.
Okay. So the Tush Push lives a little bit. Are you surprised? Are you surprised it made it?
No, I'm not. I said on Channel 6 on Tuesday morning that they didn't have the votes and that they would try to get over the top in the vote in the meeting today. I think that they never really had the votes. I think Lurie did a good job, no question. Bringing in Kelsey probably helped. But in the end, you look at the list of teams that voted against this ban, and that list of teams has remained the same.
Sal,
how about Sirianni getting that extension? Boy, I think it's fine. Way overdue for sure. He was going into the season as a lame duck. Did you know, Mike, that last year in 2024, that in the coach of the year voting, he finished 11th?
I believe, and I opened my show with this yesterday, that he is the most improbable Philly sports success story in history. He is Rocky Balboa. I mean, he loses in the championship, and in the rematch, he wins. He's handpicked by nobody wanted this guy. He wins the Super Bowl. He's won 70% of his game. He's on top of the world, and yet he should be the most popular sports figure in town, and yet he's maybe the most misunderstood.
No, I think he's definitely underrated. I wouldn't say he's misunderstood. I think people get him, that he wears his heart on his sleeve, that sometimes his emotions pour out from him in, gangly ways that are difficult to interpret. But I think people get him. I think the national media does not get him. So you had 50 voters from the national media that are part of the Associated Press voting last year. He did not get a single vote in first, second, third, or fourth place. His highest vote was 3 fifth-place votes.
Yeah.
He finished 11th. That is a shame. That's terrible. That is a really bad job by the national media. He does not get the credit. And you look at all the commercials. Look at the national commercials. You see Andy Reid all over the place. You see the Harbaugh sometimes.
Yeah.
You see a lot of Nick Saban. You don't see any Nick Sirianni.
Sean McVay.
You see Sean McVay in commercials.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see Nick Sirianni in the national commercials. You don't see Nick Sirianni on the national shows other than Pat McAfee. I'll give Pat McAfee credit. He's been on the McAfee show, and he should be. But he should be on a lot of these national shows.
It's yesterday in the press conference. This was they had Mailata go out there, A.J. Brown go out there, Jalen Hurts. I couldn't figure out if that was like, hey, you guys go out there and set this off, or because a lot of the questions that came in were Tush Push related, and was they kind of trying to downplay the necessity of how much they need the Tush Push, because they all kind of just said, whatever, we'll just do something different there. I thought that was A.J. Brown's like, we'll just call another play. What's the difference? Mailata, we'll just do something different. It seemed almost like they were almost getting ready for this to be kind of squashed.
Are you saying that Rocky was playing rope-a-dope?
That's a good pull there. Yes, something to that effect, because, it was weird that they had these, I don't know, I mean, how many times you got to get an extension and then you see a press conference with some of the players? It was like kind of an odd, start to that thing. He was supposed to start at 12:45. He didn't start till after 2.
Yeah, that's not unusual that is unusual. That's a long period of time, but that doesn't really matter. I think the bottom line is, they want to feature certain guys, and Jalen Hurts certainly needs to speak in the offseason, and that'll probably be his only opportunity to do so until maybe June or July. So that was important for him to talk.
Yeah.
He hasn't talked since the Super Bowl, so that was critical. And neither Hurts nor Brown went to the White House. So obviously that needed to be addressed, and they got that out of the way. I certainly think that was part of it for sure. And I can't hear enough from Jordan Mailata. I mean, to me, Jordan Mailata is such a key component of the team. Talk about underrated players. This guy did not make All-Pro, Jordan Mailata. He was the number one offensive lineman, not offensive tackle, offensive lineman in pass block win rate last year. Jordan Mailata is a guy that I hope that they will continue to feature, because and this is another thing. Again, and people call me a homer sometimes, Mike, and I understand it when I go around the National Football League. But, the reason why I bang the table for Dick Vermeil to get in the Hall of Fame, and Brian Dawkins, and Harold Carmichael, and last year, at the forefront of getting Eric Allen into the Hall of Fame is because for years and years and years, it was Pittsburgh or Dallas or Oakland. It was, Chicago, all of those teams that were getting guys into the Hall of Fame or getting the national commercials or getting the national recognition or being on these national shows. And, it's just such an obvious thing that Philadelphia gets forgotten about. And Sirianni and Mailata are two examples, I think, of this Super Bowl team. They beat Andy Reid, who's going to the Hall of Fame. They beat Patrick Mahomes, who's going to the Hall of Fame. And 5 years ago, they beat Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. They beat 4 Hall of Famers in their 2 Super Bowl wins. And neither one of the head coaches was Coach of the Year. And for the life of me, how Harry Roseman wasn't Executive of the Year is beyond belief, too. It's ridiculous.
He's almost like at the point where he's getting a Lifetime Achievement Award now, though, right? It's just like, hey, it's like the NBA. Well, we're not going to give you the MVP because you would win it every year if we really gave it to the right person.
Listen, Howie Roseman's going to Canton, Ohio. I know there's a lot of people who don't believe that or who don't agree with me on that, but Bill Polian did not win a Super Bowl. And he's in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, listen, Sal, I had people – this is interesting because it ties into something that happened this week. Joe Douglas is back with the Eagles. And for years, when the Eagles won that first Super Bowl, I had listeners, it was Joe Douglas who built those teams. And yesterday with the Douglas news, some of those people finally apologized for being wrong and said, I got to give Howie credit. All these years later, though, but Joe Douglas back. How about that little circle of life?
The facts are the facts. I mean, Bill Polian, no Super Bowl wins. Ron Wolf only has 1. He's in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. Howie Roseman's got to be in. 2. He's going to be in Canton. I'm on the committee. I'm on the contributor subcommittee. That guy's going to Canton. I will do the same banging on the table that I did for Vermeil, who was overlooked for all those years. Howard Carmichael, same thing. Howie Roseman, we're going to have a party for Howie Roseman in Canton, Ohio.
I think you are absolutely right about that. Before we rock and roll, how on a scale of 1 to 10, interested are you in the Hard Knocks NFC East that will air this year?
How about 25? Can I go?
Yeah, because they wouldn't get the Eagles on there singularly, and I can't imagine the Giants wanted to do it again, but they got the whole division this time, much like they did last year with the AFC North.
It's going to be so popular. It's going to be so great.
Unbelievable.
I mean, first of all, you got the Super Bowl champs. Then you got the Dallas Cowboys, and they're drama a minute. they're constantly in the news about this, that, and the other thing, and of course they're popular in their own right. And you got the Washington Commanders with the most popular rookie from last year in Jaden Daniels. And then of course bringing up the rear, you got the New York Giants, who are 1 season away from total oblivion. So I mean, it's fascinating that recently all the news was about the Giants quarterback room. I mean, the Giants won 3 games last year. Do we really need to hear about them on national TV?
Well, I'll tell you what.
The Giants and the Giants will be the first team featured. I don't know how it works.
Well, I think with the way they did it last year was they kind of bounced from team to team each week as they got ready for. So, they had the Steelers and, maybe, say if the show's an hour, each team kind of got, a 15 minutes. So it was like this. And I think one of the weeks the 2 teams played each other. Like the Steelers played the Bengals or the Steelers played the Browns. So you might get Eagles-Cowboys week because my producer Josh was telling me before, it's 8 episodes. So they're going to have to – and it's going to air in December. So it's going to probably ramp up mid-November, and I think the dates were – it ended on January the 7th last year. So you're going to get some Eagles, Giants, probably.
The only reason why it ended on January the 7th last year, however, Michael, is because the AFC North teams were no longer involved in the postseason. I was told that they stay with the team until the team is eliminated.
Wow. All right. Well, I didn't know that nugget. There's a Sal nugget for us today. on the Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN. How's the downtime going? Everything good in the offseason?
What downtime? I'm on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. Come on, what downtime? We got news all over the place. You got the head coach getting extended. You got the brotherly shove getting at least a 1 year reprieve. You got Jeffrey Lurie bringing Jason Kelsey out to Minneapolis with him. I mean, come on, what do you got? You got Hard Knocks. What else you want from me, Michael?
All right, well, I'll let you go back into hibernation for a couple weeks. How's that?
Okay. Good. All right. Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Michael.
All right, Sal Paolantonio at Sal Pal ESPN on Instagram. You can check him out over there as well. He drops some nuggets over there. Yeah, the Eagles, if you're just tuning in, they're going to be on the Hard Knocks this coming season with the NFC East. It's Hard Knocks NFC East. So it's all the NFC East teams are going to be a part of the Hard Knocks this year. But I would imagine, you got the Eagles, Dallas, and Washington. They're going to be kind of in the circle. Now, Josh, when did we'll talk about this and find out. Well, I got to find out, when did it start last year? And then I want to try to see which games were the ones they featured in those episodes so we could try to get a kind of stranglehold on which games might start this journey.
So not to overcomplicate this, but so what they did was early in the season, they recapped some of like the bigger moments from the team's early season. Like there was one episode just about the Jameis Winston Steelers-Browns primetime game in the snow, for example. That was like one episode. Was like that whole what led up to that game. There was another episode where it kind of tracked the Steelers game leading up to the Eagles game they played. And it kind of featured like, hey, and this was the Eagles versus the Bengals earlier this year. And they kind of made it a bit of an analogy between the Steelers, Eagles, and Bengals, Eagles games. And they kind of interwove the stories as they were building up to, okay, now we're getting to the end of the season. Can the Bengals make the postseason? What about the Steelers? What are the Ravens doing? You heard Sal say the whole show ends in the final episode with the Ravens losing in the postseason.
All right, well, I want to try to find out when the first air date was and what.
It was December 2nd last year was the
December
first episode.
2nd.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. So it's December 2nd was the first episode, and then which kind of game? I know you're saying they did a little bit of the season, but I did see an episode or two. The one that I saw was when the Browns and the Steelers played against each other. So when they got that footage and then aired it, when was the week that they got that footage from?
Yeah, historically, the in-season takes footage from the entire season, but then they hyper-focus on like the middle and end of the season. So you may have situations where you may reference, you mentioned the Eagles-Cowboys game in November, right? Well, they might have an episode where they say, well, this is what happened in Eagles-Cowboys the first game, and then do a build-up to the second game. That would be the first episode.
All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Couple text messages we'll react to. Phillies lineup should be coming out here soon, if it's not out already. We'll get to that hopefully before the end of the show tonight. It is Walker, Taiwan Walker pitching tonight. Blanked for a second on who pitches tonight.
Taiwan Walker almost got nailed in the dugout last night by a
bats
foul
were flying all over the place last night.
I mean, the poor guy with the camera, had the bat flying at him twice.
All right, we'll do that next here. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. All right, 5:30. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Knicks Nuggets. No Nuggets today. They're brought to you by The Hub, gear that works as hard as you do. What were we doing today at 4:30 when the Nuggets were generally on?
Well, we were going to have a discussion about Sirianni, but then our conversation derailed into music band leaders and movie actors.
That's right. So the other day when we did the Nuggets, you were filling in on the Nuggets there. You were asking me, am I interested in any of these certain things?
Yeah.
And one of them was it the golf?
Yeah, Sky Scheffler winning the PGA Championship. Quail Hollow.
Yeah, and I said I didn't really have a lot of interest. What is your level of interest in the NBA playoffs right now?
I mean, for me,
how much have you watched up to this point?
So the first round, I was kind of in and out, kind of like weaving in and out because there were so many games. As the rounds have gotten to eliminate more and more teams, the more interested I've gotten.
I find it very difficult for me to get into these playoffs, and I don't know if it's just because I was not into the Sixers season at all. Like, I just never got into. I did watch I watched Christmas Day. I mean, football was on Christmas Day, and I watched the Sixers. But after that, I just never got into the season. The Sixers just gave me nothing. And I see this because the ratings for the Western Conference Final game last night down 24%. It's the least watched conference final game one since the COVID delay 2021. Oklahoma City, Minnesota, rough in terms of market size. But you got two of the biggest stars in the game. The MVP, he just got named MVP today, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And even the MVP can't get people in there. Edwards, tonight you're going to get – I think the Knicks will do well. I think they will. I think the Eastern Conference playoffs on ESPN, the other ones are on TNT. I think they will play well.
Now, I want to ask you then, so do you buy into the theory that because there is no villains, there is no dynasty teams, there is no people that the casual fan would generally root against, is that a factor in this viewership?
Yeah, and listen, the Knicks are a somewhat likable team. They are not, quote-unquote, the villains here, like a New York team. Generally, it's either New York against the world, and everybody roots against New York.
Like Yankees.
The Knicks have been so bad for 50 years that nobody really cares about the Knicks, and they're somewhat likable. So even them, that's like not villainous when it comes to trying to decide. Indiana just doesn't have any player. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton is somewhat recognizable, but not overly recognizable. His biggest thing might be that he does the McAfee show a lot.
Yeah, I would say that generally Anthony Edwards and SGA are probably more well-known nationally than Halliburton.
100%, yes. I mean, and Edwards, they went to the Western Conference Finals last year, so at least he has that going for him. Oklahoma City has very little national recognition, but they probably have the best player left in the playoffs. It's just a weird dynamic, but I have tried. Now, I have watched a little bit more recently, but I have tried to get into some of these playoffs, and I'm just finding, and I'm wondering if it is because the Sixers, I just never got my hands dirty with the Sixers. I just never got into it. I never really was like, all right, I'm going to sit down and just get in on this season. It just never happened. The whole year, it just never happened.
I think that for some people, like there are like you, who, because their team was not in the postseason or did not make a deep run, that they've kind of like unplugged. You know, I think there's a lot of people.
You know, I'm a basketball fan. Like when the Sixers have been in the playoffs, I've watched the playoffs. It's just the fact that they're not in it and never gave me any hope the whole season that I never really was able to connect with this season.
But I'm trying to draw a larger loop with other people because you said the ratings were down so much for Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. So it's obviously more than just Sixer fan, who's not watching. It's other people who are not watching too.
Well, and I think a lot of it is because of the teams that are left. I'm just saying, for me, I generally would watch Minnesota, Oklahoma City because I could care less about the market sizes. That's not it. I think it's just that I was so disconnected with the season this year.
But I do think that no Lakers, no Warriors, no Celtics, there's a few different teams like that I think if they were in the conference finals, it would probably have a lot more, I'm rooting for this guy, I'm rooting against that guy.
What a bizarre way to be to decide whether or not you're going to watch a game based on the city that the team is from. Like, why would that matter?
I think there's a lot of people who root for and against players and teams purely based on things that have nothing to do with general fandom.
It seems that way, but it's like, hey, if the same exact players were playing with different cities on their uniform, you would watch them.
Yeah, because it's the same thing with Yankees, Red Sox. Most people don't care that the Cubs and Cardinals are a rivalry, except for diehard baseball fans. But when Yankees, Red Sox are on TV, people roll up.
So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander wins the MVP. That was announced a couple hours ago. He will lead Oklahoma City. By the way, I think that was my Bet365 play of the day yesterday, which was a winner. That was a Oklahoma City and the under. I think they both hit last night.
Well, I know you hit the regular line. I got to check the under.
Oklahoma City was favored by 7. I think they won by 27. They won what, like 122-89, something like that?
I'm pulling it up exactly right now.
Are you are you interested in the hockey at all?
114.88 they won.
That was close. What did I say?
I don't know if that's the over
122.
I knew they covered the 7 because I kept looking up at the screen and being like, well, they're going to just run away for this game.
You into the hockey at all? Because if you're into the hockey, well, I would say, you're talking about the ratings. The NHL has Edmonton, Dallas,
yes,
Florida,
Carolina.
And Carolina.
I think the hockey ratings are going to suffer. I really
think.
And it's not because they're bad teams. It's because I think that
nobody's a bad team when you're down to the Final Four.
No, but I mean, like, there's teams that get there sometimes. They get, matchups, styles make fights. Hockey's a weird sport where you could have, a goalie gets hot or a forward gets hot and it just carries a team through a playoff run. But I think the problem is that, last night, I'm watching the Phillies game. I looked over the conference finals NBA. That was number 2. But the hockey fell at number 3 because I was way more interested in SGA versus Anthony Edwards, even though Anthony Edwards to lead the game with an ankle injury, than I was in watching Rod the Bod against, Paul Maurice and the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched any of the hockey at all. And now with these 4 teams, I mean, Edmonton would be the one that has a player that you're
Edmonton is fascinating because in 2 years, Connor McDavid is going to be a free agent. And there's a lot of people who are pointing to if Edmonton can't win a cup this or next year, is McDavid going to be like, guys, it's been great, but I got to go win a cup?
I mean, maybe. I mean, if they get there, it'll be second year in a row that they get there.
But if they lose again.
The next year group of free agents will be interesting.
Right, not this year, but next offseason.
Yes.
Because Connor McDavid's the leader of that bunch, and there's a ton of guys on that group 2 years from now that you're looking at like, oh, well, what about him? Well, what about him? There's a lot of people who are saying the Flyers are going to conserve their cap for that offseason.
So the Eagles will be a part of the Hard Knocks.
Yes.
It says Hard Knocks to feature Bills and NFC East this year.
So the announcement, if you go to the NFL now, they announce both at the same time. So the Bills are going to be in the preseason edition.
Oh, okay. This is the way they wrote that sentence?
Yeah. The NFL announced both things at the same time.
So the Bills are going to be the normal one.
The traditional one.
Okay.
By the way, the first time for the Bills on Hard Knocks, too.
That was the one that people thought was going to be North Carolina?
Yes. So the original idea was that they were going to do, for those who don't know, Bill Belichick in North Carolina. But then apparently the North Carolina administration nixed that.
Yeah. So it's going to be the Bills in the regular one, and then the NFC East will be featured. Of the NFC East teams, other than the Eagles, which team are you most intrigued to see behind the scenes?
I am absolutely fascinated by the Cowboys, not just because they're the Cowboys, but because Brian Schottenheimer's a first-year head coach. He's never been a head coach before, Mike. How is that going to work in Dallas with all those personalities and all the glitz and Jerry
Well, by
Jones?
the time, though, that they get to him, he will at least have his feet under him.
Well, remember, the cameras are not going to be just in November. The NFL Films cameras are going to be gathering footage throughout the whole season. That's how it works with this in-season Hard Knocks. So they're going to be hyper-focused on November, December, but you're going to have part of the story being covered with NFL Films throughout the entire year. So, like, for example, what we see from the Cowboys in week 1, are they going to disintegrate throughout the season? Are they going to maintain throughout the season? You know, Mike, if Dallas wins week 1, do they ride high for the rest of the year? Or if they lose week 1, is there a point in October, November, and everything just implodes?
Well, I'm intrigued by – I want to see Washington. I mean, you can make a case for all three. I want to see Washington to see the involvement, if any, from Josh Harris.
Okay.
You know, to see if he's day-to-day. You know, like Jeffrey Lurie stands at practice a lot. He's on the sidelines or you see him standing there just watching the practice. Does Josh Harris have a big hand in the Commanders? You know, the Commanders are getting I think they're
getting a new stadium.
Right? They're talking about getting an indoor stadium. They want to try to host WrestleMania.
Yeah, they want to host WrestleMania. They want to host the draft. They want to host a ton of stuff.
Stuff like that.
Oh, did you see Josh Harris's wife say that the Washington Commanders are America's team?
I did hear that bite. They are in the nation's capital. Maybe she's trying to go
Maybe
that
she's being a
way.
little literal there.
I am surprised, like the whole America's team, obviously the Cowboys have had that moniker for years, that through, you know, the same thing that happened with the Cowboys that got them popular, that if and when that will happen with the Patriots.
I feel like the Patriots became such an evil empire. You know, the Patriots followed the narrative of, you know, you either die the hero or you see yourself live long enough to become the villain.
Yeah, but there's so many frontrunners out there. So I wonder if there's like I think
it's more of the Chiefs.
Well, that will be the next incarnation. But I'm talking about the previous 20-year run. Those people, the front runners of the world who had kids, are there going to be like the Patriots fans living in like random, like Cowboys fans?
Right.
It happened because they were good in the 70s, and that spawned this nationwide group of fans. Now the Cowboys have not been very good. 20 years worth of a team being good, you would imagine that there are front runners across the country that just kind of latched onto them because wherever they are, their team wasn't any good. They don't have a team. So then they became Patriots fans. Will they start to infiltrate the NFL world here at some point? Because you would imagine 20 years of them being good that, you know, those people are in their 20s now.
I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean, I know that there was a time in my life where I dated a lady who was a Patriots fan because she was a front runner, and she just didn't want to be an Eagles fan like everybody else. And it was kind of like the beginning of the end of our relationship.
I feel like if you told her you didn't know any of the lead singers of these bands, you probably could have ended that thing quicker.
She was not a very big music person, I have to admit.
Matt in Delaware, if you're a big basketball fan, you watch the games. A lot of these old heads nowadays don't watch the games and say they shoot too many threes. When last night's game didn't have too many crazy threes, these young NBA fans just watch highlights, not the whole games. Matt in Delaware.
I would say, Matt in Delaware, though, if you were watching the game, Julius Randle had an historic night from three. He had 5 threes in the first half.
Yeah, I don't love the three barrage that you get, like the Celtics shooting 60, like those things. Like, I don't love it, but it doesn't keep me from watching the game. My bigger thing is I just wasn't invested in the season all that much.
Right. Your thing is less about the style of the game and more the fact that the Sixers not being good kept you from investing yourself.
It made me feel less invested and like a disconnect with all of the teams. I usually feel that I have a much better grasp on the teams and a closer connection of okay, I like what I think about each team. All right, Phillies lineup is out. It is Turner, Harper, Schwarber, Castellanos, Realmuto, Bohm, Sosa, Wilson, Rojas. So they're going with the right-handed lineup tonight. You got the lefties Stott, Marsh, and Kepler all on the bench, and the pitcher tonight is Walker. So that is your Phillies lineup tonight against the Colorado Rockies.
I will say the other night they did bring the lefties in when they went to the bullpen for the Rockies. So I'm curious to see, do they do something similar?
Well, they've been
tonight?
doing that for most of the year. I mean, that's what people's complaints have been, is that they pinch hit these guys in like a line change of pinch hitters. I mean, that's been going on the whole season.
Still weird.
You don't see. Well, I mean, I take that back. I mean, I see teams play against. I think the thing that's weird with the Phillies is that they have so many lefties that are platooned. Some teams might have one or two. The Phillies have three.
True.
So you see the Phillies on almost every given night have two or three different guys coming in and out of games, where maybe the other teams that you play against have one guy. Trey Turner up to 305. Edmundo Sosa, 386, had 4 hits the other night. Big game for Sosa. He's doing a great job in his role. That's their Phillies lineup tonight. We'll wrap up the show. We got the Bet365 play of the day coming up next right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. At 5:52, we'll get you out of here on a Wednesday night. Todd Zolecki was on earlier. If you missed that, check it out on the YouTube stream back in hour number 2. Mike McGarry in the 2 o'clock hour, and Sal Paolantonio at 5 tonight. Got the Bet365 play of the day for you. And last night we had Oklahoma City with a cover, and I had the
Under. You hit both, so now you are 169, 111, and 1.
169, 111, and 1. Let's keep it going. Going tonight, I'm going Pacers, Knicks, over tonight. Pacers, Knicks, game 1, which you can listen to right here on 97.3 ESPN. The Pacers, Knicks, I'm going over the number tonight. That number for the game tonight is, double check, 221.5. Yep, 221.5. Knicks are favored by 4.5. I'm not going to play that number. Game at Madison Square Garden. Not sure I like. These two teams played in the semis last year. The Pacers won that series. So just throwing that out there. Pacers,
different Knicks team, though.
Definitely a different Knicks team. Pacers, I think, these two teams, regular season, Knicks 51-31, Pacers 50-32, very similar. I think people just don't watch the Pacers. They don't see them all that much. So it's not a team that I think people are really, giving a lot of credit here or
belief in.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. At this point, I'm rooting for the Pacers. The heck with the Knicks.
You don't care about the number Knicks.
No, it's a shame because they are a likable team. I like the Knicks team last year a little bit better.
More gritty.
Yeah, I think they. And I
More
said before, I
blue-collar.
thought the team last year was going to be that this team, wasn't quite as gritty and tough as last year's team. Now, losing Tatum kind of, but they were beating that team anyway. So I don't know that really played a lot. I would have liked to see if Tatum was healthy and finished that series out. What would have happened? But yeah, I got the over in that game tonight. 221.5. Pacers, Knicks. That is my Bet365 play of the day. All right, that'll about do it for me here on this Wednesday night. It's a little chilly outside, a little wet and rainy.
Yeah, the rain definitely dropped the temperature.
Well, the rain dissipated. It was supposed to be raining all day long, and then it just kind of stopped, and there's no more rain in the forecast. I thought today was going to be a total washout, and it seems that it's not the case, but it's been kind of a meh day all day. But good news today. Tush Push ban did not pass, so the Tush Push is not going anywhere, at least for the 2025 season. The other news was the Eagles and the NFC East teams, they're all going to be on Hard Knocks. We just gave you the Phillies schedule. Got the NBA Eastern Conference Finals tonight on 97.3 ESPN. That game starts, pregame coverage starts at 7:30 here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, game night is up next, and I am Mike Gill. I'll talk to you tomorrow right here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN.